Hello and welcome to the Big League Show. As always, I'm Connor Somerville, joined by Aiden Celifant, and today we're coming back strong after taking a couple weeks off, or a week off, I guess, because we did do the Christmas episode, which everyone should go and check out with Zach, Evan, and Matt. But we're back to talk some actual sports because everything has happened in the past 2 weeks, and we've missed the entire World Juniors, which probably wasn't the best planning, but alas, here we are. But without further ado, I should probably introduce our guest because I haven't done that yet. So we're joined this week by the sailing aficionado and I guess future potential. Actually, I don't know what you want to do, if you want to do play-by-play or features, which we'll talk about in a second. But ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Thomas West.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be on, and a bit of a fan of the show as well. So happy you guys invited me.
Glad you brought that up again. Yeah. Oh wow, Connor. Okay.
We have at least one.
Yeah.
It's always a positive. And but yes, we do see you, people watching video on our YouTube channel. I don't know how many stuff we get off Anchor or Spotify or wherever we are, because I don't even know if you upload that audio there anymore.
Yeah, it's there. It's still there. We got 2 people watching on YouTube. So yeah, that's a good start.
One of those is probably me. So and by that I mean one of those is definitely me. But to the other viewer, hey, let's just kick it off, I guess. Get it going right away. And start off with the question that we love to ask our viewers or our guests every time, because it gets them in the deep end right away, shall we say. And if you're a fan of the podcast, you'll know what's coming. But what is your first memory of sports, and what is your first memory of sport media?
Sure. Okay. So my first memory of sports. So I probably grew up a little differently than everyone else in that I went to a private school called the Toronto Waldorf School. So I didn't watch sports or listen to the radio or play video games or do anything with like TV technology until like pretty much high school. But I broke the rules a little bit because I still liked sports. So first of all, my first memory of sports would be probably following the Toronto Maple Leafs via the newspaper. So every morning I would go and get up early, get the newspaper, and read like all the stats and stuff and I'm not a stats guy. This is just what I did back in the day. But I would go and read all of the stats and stuff like that and see how the Toronto Maple Leafs were doing. And that was probably my number one team. So that's probably my first memory of sports. My first memory of sports on TV would be probably Sidney Crosby's Golden Goal. I think that was probably one of the first sporting events that I watched entirely. But yeah, I remember that game pretty vividly. And also I remember that there was a kid in my school as well that was from Russia, and he would love to just rip on the Canadians all the time. So this was like my first chance to really kind of stick it to use an American from last night.
Is there a reason that you never watched sports on TV?
Yeah, I guess I didn't make that clear. Yeah, so my school, there was no media. So like people obviously would like, disobey the rules a little bit because, it's hard for people's parents to, entertain their kid the entire day without having a TV on. But I'm an only child, so my parents followed the rules pretty much, entirely. Yeah, so basically I couldn't, I played video games when I was like 3 years old, and then as soon as I went to this Waldorf school, I didn't do any media, didn't listen to the radio, didn't watch TV, none of that stuff.
So that was a school rule then?
Yeah.
So why sport media then? Like, how did sport media happen, I guess, essentially?
Yeah, it's kind of ironic, right?
Yeah.
So I had started out I know a lot of people on this podcast, it's like they come in and it's, their dream to be in sport media and stuff like that. That probably wasn't how it started for me. So when I applied to sport media, I applied thinking I didn't have a chance to get in because I don't have any connections to the industry. I had never really done anything in sport media in my high school or anything like that. The only thing I did was I was the in-game announcer for the basketball games, like 10 times, but that was pretty much the only time I'd even, stood in front of a microphone. And I wanted to go to Queens because Queens has a really good sailing team. And I know you've brought up sailing earlier. And I kind of wanted to go into varsity sailing and see where that was going to take me because if you look at sailing in Canada, it's not that strong and, got a pretty good chance to go to the Olympics if you're good. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. And then I got into Queens and I was like, okay, great. I guess I'm going to go to Queens and do a Bachelor of Arts. And but then when I came to Ryerson to do the interview, and I thought, yeah, maybe this is a better path for me, right? Like I'm going to Queens to do nothing I really want to do except sail. And it ended up working out really well because I got into sport media, which I think they knew that I wanted to be in sport media more than I knew I wanted to be in sport media at the time. And Joe Recupero, who was my interviewer, I know that was yours too, Aiden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he knew that I was going to have a good time with sport media more than I did. And I'm very glad that he knew that because it's probably the best decision I've made in my life to come to sport media.
So what was that like?
It's a very interesting path.
Yeah. I'm curious as to what like the final straw was, I guess, that caused you to choose sport media over Queens, because it does sound like you were set on Queens and then the interview changed your mind. But it must have been a really hard decision for you, right?
Yeah. Well, and the summer as well before sport media, like I didn't expect to get in, so I wasn't really like following sports that closely as well. So that kind of made it difficult to make my decision to come in as well, because I thought I'd be like behind in the first year. I'm not really sure what way to make the decision. I know that I played baseball with Drew Frank, who's in our program growing up, and he was at the interview when I did my interview. And I think we kind of like reunited there, and we were kind of like, hey, maybe if we both get in, we should, like live together and be roommates. And I was like, oh, damn, like that's kind of cool. And I think my best friend from high school as well, he was going to go to Queens, and then he didn't. So I was kind of like, oh, well, maybe I'll just go be roommates with Drew. That sounds kind of fun. We played baseball together, and that worked out pretty well. So maybe Drew is the reason I'm in sport media. I don't know.
And he's, I think, literally in the next room over. So.
He's probably listening right now.
Yeah, so he's a legend. We've had him on the podcast in the past as well, but I think he's going to be one of those guests where we're going to have to get him on a second time because he just does everything always. It's insane how much stuff he's involved in.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I'd say of all the people in this program, he is the most technically gifted that I know of.
Definitely.
And it's nuts what he's able to do. I said it during, I think, his podcast. Coming out of school, he will be the one person who I could guarantee will get a job.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's nuts. But this isn't about Drew Frank. This is about Thomas West. So let's dive in a bit more on who you are. And I want to know what drew you to sport media. Like, when did you find out about it? And when did you think that this could be a career for you?
I'll be honest. What drew me to sport media is that it had the word sports in the title of the program.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
I was looking. What do I like? I like sports. Okay, well that's where I'm going to start searching for my university program. But I mean, I've always really liked sports since I was a young kid, right? Like obviously, I say that the year before I came to sport media, I wasn't following it very much, but it was because I'm at my college without Wi-Fi. But I mean, like my childhood is rooted in, following sports teams through the newspaper every single morning. Like I would spend hours going on looking through the newspaper on the sports section and, seeing all the scores. And then when I was done looking at all the scores and watching everyone, I'd go look at it again. And so there was a time when I was a kid when I switched from being a Leafs fan to a Habs fan. And my neighbor across the street was a Leafs fan, and I was a Habs fan. And I would cut out pieces of the newspaper whenever the Leafs lost. I'd put it in his mailbox.
That's cruel.
That's evil.
Yeah, I would spend hours just making cutouts of the Leafs scores and stuff like that, and going over and putting it in his mailbox. And that kind of kick-started my love of sports. And being a sports fan, once you feel passionate about a team, you're gonna stick with them for a long time, right? You go through thick and thin with them. So that's kind of, I guess, what kick-started me being like a fan of sports, and then eventually got me into following the leagues and different sports and stuff like that.
So it was the
Thomas West
newspaper.
is a bully.
It was the newspaper. That's what helped you. The
Yeah.
newspaper. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the newspaper. Yeah.
I feel like there's a bit of lag here, probably on my end.
Is there? Oh,
So
okay.
apologies, but I don't know because you're always talking when I think I'm talking alone. But doesn't matter because we'll power through. But it's just cruel because those would have been the years where the Leafs sucked.
Oh yeah.
And the Habs.
Yeah.
I guess the Habs kind of sucked too then. Around that time, not sucked as bad as
they
the
were bad
Leafs,
too.
but yeah.
They were a little better than the Leafs though, so we were okay. It wasn't like a kid I was doing this to though. This was I was sending it because the guy's dad. So I'm saying this to a grown man. So I'm I'm 10 years old. He's probably 35. So
Okay.
he could take it.
It's in his bed crying every single night because this guy just keeps
Oh,
sending
you
him
send them
newspapers.
back.
And
You would send them back too though.
Oh.
It wasn't just one way.
Oh,
it was
okay.
back
That's
and forth.
amazing.
I see.
Yeah.
Hey, that's good.
I love
Are you still
that. I
in
love
touch
that.
with this guy?
Yeah, well, he still lives across the street from me. I obviously I don't live back in Richmond Hill anymore. I'm in Toronto now, but yeah, I'll say hi every now and then. Yeah.
All right, cool.
When the Leafs win the cup, you need to do something
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
drive it home. Or
Yeah.
no, when the Habs win the cup, because you were the Habs fan, weren't you?
We're just
Yeah, or maybe we can make peace when the Leafs win the cup.
exactly. There you
Yeah,
go.
we'll see.
Yeah.
You've embraced your Toronto roots as you moved to Ryerson.
Yeah.
And you mentioned already that your interviewer was Joe, but I want to know what that entire application process was like for you, because you weren't necessarily, how do I put this? You weren't necessarily viewing this as a possibility, I guess might be a
No.
good way of putting it.
That's correct. Yeah.
So did you feel like there was more pressure or less pressure on you when
Way less.
you went for the interview?
Yeah, way less pressure, and because I thought this was so far out of reach for me. I couldn't believe I was in the interview, but I still didn't really believe. I thought this was so far out of reach for me, just because I'm looking at all the other people. You talk to a few people in the interview, and they say, oh, we had a radio show, or we did the morning announcements, and I was like, whew, I didn't do any of that. But yeah, there was less pressure. That it probably helped me.
All right, apologies if you see me looking at my phone because protesters have stormed the U.S. Capitol building. So that's a good thing. But we'll stick to sports and not talk about politics, or at least U.S. politics yet, because I think we'll probably have to talk a little bit of Canadian politics when we get to our sports section of the show. But what have you done at Ryerson? Affiliated with Ryerson? Because a lot of people we've had on have done Spirit Live shows. And you're one of the few people we've had on who hasn't done something with Spirit Live. You've done a lot with Rams Live. You've done stuff with Roots of the Ram. And you're a part of the, not Virtual Jays Network, the Ryerson Baseball stuff, which was affiliated with Ryerson. So why don't we start off with Rams Live, because that's sort of something everybody can I guess, relate with who comes to Ryerson, apart from me, because I haven't done a broadcast yet. But what has been doing Rams Live like? Like, how have you found it? Because you've also done color and play-by-play for them, correct?
Yeah. So Rams Live is, if you're into live sports production, it's the best thing you can be doing as a Ryerson Sport Media student. And if you're watching this and you're in first year, you got to get on Rams Live broadcast as quick as you can, because that's where you meet people.
This pandemic's over.
Yeah, you make connections, and yeah, it's great. So started out, I think I did like second semester of first year. I didn't even know about Rams Live when I first started out. Found out about it second semester of first year, and started out as a camera operator on camera 4.
Is that
Hurts your
handheld?
shoulder really
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I tried to move up in the world. I think I got doing some replay. And I don't know if you know Sean Addis. He was big in the Ryerson baseball. But I remember I did audio with him once. And we got talking about a lot of stuff. And I think he kind of, opened the door for me mentally, I would say, to, try and get into some other things. And I started doing replay. And then, I got it on air as what I wanted to do, but I don't think I knew I wanted to do on air until I started Rams Live. And there was a spot at Color that was open, I think. And this was like late in first year. And one of my friends, Brendan Cassidy, who graduated from Ryerson Sport Media, was the play-by-play guy. And that game, we just clicked. And we had he was on play-by-play, really good play-by-play guy, by the way. And he kind of guided me through the whole thing. I had a pretty good game on Color, and that started a relationship between Brendan Cassidy and I that we have just ran with, and we do projects together now. And pretty much every Rams Live game after that, we tried to get on the same broadcast together. And whether it was him on play-by-play or me on play-by-play, we always had some pretty good chemistry. But I think the biggest moment for me was doing my first play-by-play game. And it was the Ryerson Rams and York Lions, and this was in first year. I think it was like the last game of the season or something like that. So it didn't really matter between either team. But oh my God, I think that was probably the most scared I've ever been in my life. I spent like 3 days memorizing all the names and numbers, and as soon as they got out on the ice, forgot all of it. Couldn't remember a single name.
Did you get back into the swing of things like second period, third period?
Oh no, I picked it up like after the puck drop. Like it came back to settle down. But I looked on the ice and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, who are all these people, right? Like I can't see the names on the back of the jerseys. I literally have to know the numbers.
Yeah.
And ever since there, it's been very uphill. And learning names and numbers has become a lot easier for me. And I've done a bunch of games on play-by-play for Rams Live, and the team there is just absolutely spectacular. And compared to other broadcasts that I've been on, it's anyone who gets to do on air is so lucky for Rams Live, because it is probably the best broadcast you're going to be on until you get into like doing it like at a high level professionally.
So you talked about.
You must have been one of the first people to do Rams Live on air. Do you know if you're the first person in our program or our year?
No, I don't think I was. I believe, I'm not really sure. I believe that was Nick Robinson who did on air first. And then I came in behind him, I think.
Okay. Huh. That's interesting. And also, I have a question around how you do commentary, because I've mentioned this on the show before, but I've spoken to Gordon Miller in the past. And one of the things he says he studies is players' skating styles. So is that something you look at, or you just try to focus on like numbers and stuff like that?
Yeah, kind of. I can't say I've ever looked at a player's skating style because I'm a 10-year house leaguer. So I wouldn't be able to judge that anyway. But that's the great thing about play-by-play is that it's the color guy's job to know stuff about the players. But I will say it's a lot easier to know. Like, you can't just know a name and a number because that's kind of meaningless, right? You need to know it. Like, is number 22. If you know like where they're from or something about them, they score a lot of goals, they're a big player, a physical player, something like that. That is something that I will know about everyone. Because first of all, it helps because like you think, okay, let me memorize who number 22 is. I'm thinking of like a big enforcer defenseman, something like that, right? And that'll help. You'll put a name to that. And the other thing as well is that if you're calling play-by-play and you didn't study what where people are from or what they've done in the past, you're just going to be saying names and it's going to be very boring commentary, and you're going to listen to it back and you're not going to like the way it sounds. So being able to ad lib a few lines, or instead of saying this defenseman is coming up, you say the big defenseman from Chicoutimi or something like that is coming up through the neutral zone or something like that.
Workhorse from Whitehorse.
Yeah, the workhorse from Whitehorse. Yeah.
You mentioned your.
So overused.
Yeah, I know, right? You mentioned your relationship with Brandon Cassidy, and I think you did a feature on him in, was it second year TV? I think as well. So yeah. What have you learned the most from Brandon then? Like, what has he taught you about being a better commentator as Connor dips and he's coming back?
Yeah, so Brandon has a lot of confidence, and he has a lot more experience than I have being a commentator. I don't know if Brandon's listening, but I wouldn't say Brandon's taught me a lot about physically, like, what to say. Like, and because you can't really teach someone that. If you're telling someone what words you should be saying as a commentator, you're just not putting your style anymore. You're reciting lines.
Right.
And since hockey, all sports, is something that's unscripted, which is why we love it so much, people don't want to see you, be saying scripted lines or just, throwing out, common phrases all the time. So I think the biggest thing with me and Brandon is that he's really easy to talk to. So, like, and if we're in the pregame, like we're just chatting it up. Like, we're just talking about any random thing, not about hockey, anything like that. And it calms you down, because if you're just sitting in silence beside the person next to you, it's not good. So, like, we'll probably rehearse what we're going to say at the beginning of the game, maybe, 5 times before we go on air. But we're not rehearsing what we're going to say. We're rehearsing, like, a random thing. Okay,
right.
Let's talk about the Leafs last night.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, women's hockey in Bulgaria. Like, I don't know, right? Like, we talk about literally anything just to, like, calm yourself down. So I'd say, like, Brandon's kind of a calming presence for anyone that you're doing play-by-play with. And having a partner who's on air that's, got your back, and, he's not going to be, he likes to talk to you and he's open with you. That's pretty much the most important thing.
They're shooting in the Capitol building right now. So, yeah, the U.S. is currently collapsing. So if nobody's watching this podcast, we don't blame you, to say the least. So I don't know how to transition away from that. I've just been blown away from the texts that I've been getting from friends. Like, this is nuts. I guess we just continue on talking about other stuff you've done at Ryerson.
Yeah.
Because you aren't just a play-by-play guy. You aren't just a color guy. You do stuff for Roots of the Ram as well.
Yeah.
They're sort of a feature-based Ryerson. I don't know if they're fully connected to Ryerson or if this is sort of
He runs
separate.
the show. Thomas runs the show. He is the guy for it.
Okay.
Yeah, so Roots of the Rams, it's Cole and I are the producers of it, Cole Stenwick, and that started out as our TV Lab show for second year. with Laszlo. And we that was probably one of the coolest things that I've done in sport media, was working on this feature, because Cole and I decided, hey, you know what, we're gonna go crazy on this thing, and we're gonna do Roots of the Rams as a show, and then we're gonna keep going, and we're gonna keep our whole crew that we've assembled for the TV lab, and they were all in on it, and we're gonna run away with it. So it's me and Cole, the producers, and we got Joseph Shanuda, and we got Kayla, and who am I missing?
Patricia.
Yeah. And yeah, we make features and stuff. We haven't done too much. I think we did like a podcast recently, but that's about it. But we did a feature on Zach Shankar, and that was like kind of our main. We did a feature on Zach Shankar, and we did a feature on Andrew Shufreda, who was a baseball player for Ryerson. And I think the Zach Shankar feature is probably one of the most memorable, because I think we drove over 1,000 kilometers across Ontario to film this feature. So Shankar is from Prescott, Ontario, and he played for the North Bay Battalion. So we're going from Kingston to North Bay. So we started out, so Cole's from Kingston, so this worked out kind of well. So we went and we had to get a whole bunch of B-roll footage from Prescott, Ontario, because that's where he's from. And then we went to North Bay, and that was probably one of the coolest trips ever, because my cottage is near North Bay, so we stayed at my cottage, and then we went and we had a connection to the North Bay Battalion, so we got a couple North Bay Battalion tickets. Went down there, watched the game, and then after the game, or no, it was after practice, I think the next day, we went and we did an interview with a couple of the North Bay Battalion guys, and we didn't even know we were going to do that. And I know they're like 16, 17-year-olds, but it was still really cool just because of the novelty of how many kilometers we traveled to get there. And now we're getting to talk to a couple of guys on the team, and we got a bunch of B-roll, and yeah, that was just a really fun trip. And then I don't actually think the show went very well, but we didn't care at that point. It was mostly about, it was a feature-based thing, and we got to talk to a bunch of cool people. We got to, anywhere you go in North Bay, you say Zach Shankar, everyone knows who he is. And it's really cool when you go to those small towns and stuff like that, and you say someone's name from Ryerson University, like, oh wow, he's made it to Ryerson, like that's really cool. But yeah, they all remember Zach Shankar because he got in a lot of fights. But
yeah.
I think it's the Rams is it's fun because we get to kind of experience the novelty of hockey, and whatever sport is really big in that town. And it's small, but it's just kind of a cool feeling to be the city person coming in and to talking to all these locals and stuff like that.
And if I remember,
how have you adapt to the show in the pandemic then?
Yeah, so Roots of the Rams has slowed down recently. We haven't done as much stuff. Last thing we did was with Max Shields, who was supposed to be on the Ryerson hockey team this year from the York Lions, but he's not going to because he's a fifth year. So I believe that would be his last year that we just burned on COVID. But yeah, we started doing some more podcast-based stuff, and we got a website up, and we do a couple articles on that. So it's kind of a free-for-all, and the articles are not necessarily about Ryerson Rams stuff. It's just kind of, whoever wants to write something, got a platform for you, and you can throw it up there. And the podcasts are cool because I think one of our favorite things with Roots of the Rams is we get to just talk to university athletes and hear their story of them growing up. And Max Shields from Saskatchewan, and he didn't play for the Saskatoon Blades, played for the Calgary Hitmen, but the Saskatoon Blades are almost as big as the Maple Leafs are in Toronto. Like the WHL on the West Coast is the league, and you see like a bunch of 15, 16, 17-year-olds, and they're just absolutely famous being at such a young age, playing at a relatively low level of hockey, but it's really special to the people that were there. And for someone like Max Shields, who grew up in Saskatchewan, and now he grew up wanting to be a Saskatoon Blade, Like that was his goal. It wasn't to be a Toronto Maple Leaf, it was to be a Saskatoon Blade. So I think it's really cool hearing stories from OUA athletes and stuff like that, and just their story of how they got into whatever sport they're in.
Yeah, and if
Where do
I
you plan to take this in the future? Oh,
there's a bit of a delay.
yeah, I'm not
was
sure if it's you or me.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I was just gonna say, if I remember correctly, when you went to North Bay and you went to that game, didn't they repost one of your stories on their Instagram account too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that got you a lot of publicity.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that was so it was one of our friends' dad had the tickets. That was our connection to the team, and we went picked the tickets up from him, and I think we were in the car. We just took a selfie like with the tickets because we were posting it on like our Roots of the Rams because it was, the social media account was like part of the project. Like we were getting marked on like going out and going to the game and taking pictures of us at the game. Right, it was like our social media initiative, or I think that's something element that we had to have. And yeah, the North Bay Battalion reposted it on their story, and that was actually really important too. I'm glad you brought that up because when we went and talked to those the two players from the battalion, the only reason we got in touch with them is because Cole he played like junior B or something like that, and in Kingston, so he had he was a call up for junior B. I know that's a controversial topic, but he's played junior B game, so he had a few connections.
Very respectable.
I know.
Very respectable.
I mean, okay, so Devin Levi, the goalie for Team Canada, would have played like one level above him. Anyway, it was important because when we went and talked to these players, Cole just knew one of the guys' brothers. So we just sent him a DM on Instagram. He's like, hey, can we get some content for our show from you guys? And he's like, sure, I'll bring my friend. Okay, great. And they came, and we got in trouble at first because we just walked in to the Memorial Center in North Bay, which I guess you weren't really supposed to do. We just went and watched their practice and pulled them out, and the social media person comes up to us and was like, who are you guys? Like, you can't just come in and film with our players. We're like in the rig with the players, and we're like, oh, sorry. She's like, oh, wait, you're the guys who we reposted their Instagram story. We're like, yeah. Like, oh, okay, yeah, no worries. I'm just gonna stick around, make sure these guys behave themselves. And we're like, oh, okay, thanks.
Wow, that's
but
pretty
that was a good learning experience for us too, because now we know that you have to contact their social media person before you just go and whip out interviews with OHL players.
Right. Yeah, you need the credential, but yeah, that's a funny story.
Yeah.
That's something I feel like they should tell us in sport media. That you don't just go straight to the players. You contact the social media or the PR first.
Yeah, and they'll respond too. Like they will 100% respond. Like that's their job, right? But if you're trying to go and do a junior A or a OHL or whatever interview, you gotta go. You're gonna get in trouble from the coach. It's not gonna be pretty. And OHL coaches are not very nice either. Like they'll tell you off.
Wow. All right. How do you recommend you get in contact with these people? Is it through the team's DMs, or do you have to try to figure out who the social media manager's DMs are?
Yeah, if you go to the website, they'll probably have contact information, the social media manager, or just shoot a DM to the team because or I guess like the PR person would be the correct term for it. That's the person we're dealing with. But
I guess in OHL it's probably the same person because they have no money. Although
that's
I
a good point.
Wrong.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that their PR person a lot of the time is like their trainer. Like I worked for the Pickering Panthers, and they had like a pretty famous couple TikToks, I believe, and they were all posted by like their personal trainer, who was also their social media manager.
That's amateur sports for you. I think it's the best way of putting it. And you're very familiar with that, but we'll dive into that in a second because I do want to talk about your sailing and everything else you've done.
Sure.
But because I have to admit, you do have a lot of stuff that you've done. But we'll start off finish off on your Ryerson discussion of stuff affiliated with Ryerson Baseball. You're involved with that thing put together again by Drew Frank. Yeah. This is the second time he's come up in the show. But basically, can you sort of give us an idea of what you did and sort of how involved you were with the entire process?
Yeah, so I'm sure Drew Frank will come up on many future episodes as well if you keep talking to sport media people. He's made quite a few connections. But yeah, so that's a Drew Frank thing. He leads the Ryerson baseball broadcasts. Drew would do a lot of like the editing and stuff like that. And actually, I shouldn't be shouting out names because I'm not really sure. I didn't help very much with the way they edited together like the games and the podcast and stuff like that. I was mostly there to do camera operator or a producer or calling the game. So to anyone who's doing the behind the scenes stuff, there's a lot of people along with Drew, but he leads that. Yeah, so that was an interesting experience with the baseball. I don't know how much you talked to Drew about this, but first day we got there, we had a 3-camera setup. Then we weren't going live because you can't broadcast without Wi-Fi. It's just not possible. So it was me and Kobe Mitchell on the call,
Okay.
and that's probably the worst call I've ever done in my entire life of any sport ever.
Wow.
And yeah, but I mean, we got through it. We were calling the game from center field, and the problem was, I think that it's really hard to see what's happening when you're not like elevated somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we're standing in center field, which is not the worst view. Like you can see the pitches and stuff really well, but like we're right on the ground, and it just you can see who the players are and stuff like that. But when you don't have a really good view of the play, or it's like you're in an environment that's kind of uncomfortable. It's just really weird trying to do commentary, and like you're being recorded too, so it's obviously hard to talk on air and stuff like that. But yeah, there were some long days doing Ryerson baseball because we'd have 3 camera operators, 2 people on air, then one person who's like a producer who would be standing, which I did a few times, but it'd be a person that's like standing by the dugouts, and I think we would use Liam Crothers' AirPods. And I would be walking around with Liam's AirPods in my ears, and I would be telling him things that were happening, or telling the people who were on air stuff that was happening, or like there's a pinch hitter, I'd say that because they can't see from center field, or if Sean Addis was always sitting back there, so you go talk to Sean Addis, and he'd tell you some crazy stat, and I'd be like, hey Drew, this crazy stat that's happening, and Drew would say it if he was the color commentator or something like that. So
Why did you line up? Oh, sorry to cut you off. Keep going.
Yeah, that's pretty much how the broadcast went, and then we would have 3-4 broadcasts a day. So it was busy, long days in the sun.
Why did you line up in center field as opposed to behind home plate?
Because they can hear you if you're doing the commentary.
True. I didn't think about that.
I don't know. You don't want that because I think there was people who did it before us and did like some commentary, but they could totally be heard by both dugouts. And let's say you want to say someone took a bad hack at it, or somebody's the band, or that was a bad pitch call. Well, it catches hearing what you're saying. So yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's a very good point.
We didn't either. We didn't know we were going to be in center field until after. We were like, yeah, we'll just go right behind. And then we're talking, and we're like, we find ourselves like whispering. And we're like, oh, yeah, no, we can't be doing this. We got to get away from here.
Jeez.
That's hilarious.
Well, I'm sure it was a lot of trial and error, especially because it was a small team, and it's the first time that you guys did it. What would you say that you learned the most from this experience?
Well, it's very important to be prepared, even if you think that what you're doing is kind of easy, right? Like, oh yeah, I'll just bring a camera and I just hook it up and we're good, right? I'll talk, and it's never easy. Like things go wrong so much, and especially like when you're outside in the elements and stuff like that too. Like, this wasn't the most important thing, but like one of the most difficult things we found when we got there was like, we were like, damn, I don't know when we're gonna eat lunch. Like you gotta if you're the producer of this, like you gotta feed your crew, and you gotta make sure that you got people to go and run and get food, and you have water, and you got sunscreen, and stuff like that. So there's so many other factors, even when you think it's just like, oh, I'm gonna Twitch stream and I'm gonna be playing, Fortnite or something like that, right? Like you're still gonna take an hour trying to set that up. Like you're like, oh, I'll go live, in 10 minutes. No, you can't. Like it's impossible. So, really think about all the different things that could possibly go wrong, and make sure when you get there, all you have to do is plug it in, and you're good to go, because something else will go wrong, and that's going to take up a whole bunch of your time. And I guess this isn't really advice for people in sport media right now, because they know that. Like it's the same as TV lab, right? You're never going to be starting, right on time. You always got to talk for a bunch in the beginning, and lots of things go wrong.
So what have you taken away from that experience to some of the more professional broadcasts you've done? Like I know during the pandemic, and I do want to get into this. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to help out because I procrastinated and had too much work to do, and also heart issues. So getting COVID would not be a good idea. But
right.
That's another side. That we don't need to talk about that. You put on a broadcast during the pandemic with, I believe it was almost all Ryerson students, correct?
Yeah.
What was that experience like doing that? It was a prospect showcase, I believe.
Yeah. So that's a cool tournament. It was, yes, we did it on. It was a bunch of different tournaments. Well, I think the first time we did it, we had about 35 games during the weekend on 3 different rinks that we had to broadcast. And man, finding crew for that was hell. I was contacting, everyone I knew for that, and we got enough people, but yeah, that took a lot of people, and there was a lot of OBS set up and stuff like that, which is the broadcast software that we used, and our cameras were our iPhones, so we had to figure out a way to get our iPhones in, and we probably, like, we were paid to do it, obviously, but like I don't know, like no one got paid that much that was on my crew for the first couple of weeks, because we had so many costs of things we had to buy, and we had to buy like a whole bunch of iPhone cables that were 6 feet long, so the cameras weren't all 6 feet long, because we had to be 6 feet apart because we're doing it during COVID. So, and we had like lots of people we had some people with some health complications as well. So that was very difficult. And just like the amount of equipment, like we had to buy mics and, just a ton of, 50-foot Ethernet cables to attach to the rink. And, of course the Wi-Fi is never good enough at the rink. And, you have streams buffering, and I got my boss calling me, "Hey, Thomas, like, stream's kind of buffering, like everything good up there?" And yes, okay, it's fine, I'm dealing with it. And I probably got on like switching the broadcasts or on camera like 6 times the entire day, which if we're doing like 10 games in the day on 3 different rinks, that's not very much, because I'm just running around trying to fix all of the problems and running downstairs to talk to the people that are watching the stream, because it was cool. They had like none of the parents could be in the rink, but they got around it they would have like watch parties of our broadcasts in their like the back of their vans or like in the bar or stuff like that. So people all over the place are coming around like asking questions about the podcast, and the score bug's not right. Well, that's okay.
So what was that experience like then? Was it just incredibly challenging?
Yeah, it was stressful. And it was really tiring. Like, people don't realize how hard it is on your body standing at a freezing cold rink the whole day. Like, I feel so bad for everyone on the crew that had to be standing on a camera. Like, we had tripods for the camera, so it wasn't like too bad, but like the people who were standing on just frozen to the camera tripod
with the iPhone.
To play on camera 2 or on camera 1, whichever one they were. But yeah, and I mean, I guess a couple people from the broadcast will be watching this, but like it's really tough being the producer of that, because like you see like your crew is just freezing cold, and like you feel so bad because it's like, oh wow, I dragged you guys into this. Like, sorry. So yeah, it's kind of stressful, and like you don't want anyone to be cold or tired or anything like that. So it's it was tough, but at the end of the day, it's super rewarding.
I think what you have to look at it as though is this is ultimately helping everybody get experience.
Yeah.
And I don't think very many people will have experience doing a broadcast in the middle of a pandemic. And fingers crossed we don't have to do it again.
Yeah.
No offense.
Yeah.
But fingers crossed we don't have to deal with a pandemic doing broadcasts. But everything's sort of changed. And I think getting that mass experience is very helpful. And I think you should look back at that not as though you made people suffer through it, but that you gave people an idea of what all of these actual employees who do this as a professional every day of their lives go through on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Although this was in the worst case scenario humanly possible. But now they know what the worst case scenario is, and it probably isn't that bad.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that is good words for a producer as well, because that is how you have to look at the positive side, because there's a lot of negatives. But yeah, no, I appreciate that, and yeah, I mean that's just the mindset that you have to have. If I'm dreading it, then I wouldn't even be contacting all these people, because a lot of them have to be driving a long way too, and they're probably spending half their paycheck getting there. So yeah, that's a good point.
And it's really interesting. I want to know actually, what do you want to do when you graduate?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I could answer that either. I want to be on air. I want to, like, my dream job is to call play-by-play. But there's a lot of really cool experiences that I've got as well from producing features, and I'm not sure what a realistic goal. I know being on air is not necessarily a realistic goal, but that's probably what I'm trying for first and foremost.
Basically, whatever you get hired for first.
Yeah, sure.
I would say that you're really versatile. You can do the play-by-play, you can produce, you can do features. So I'm sure, like, whatever you want to do, you can do if you work hard. You're probably one of the hardest working people in the program too. You've done a lot of stuff, like Connor said. We haven't gotten to your stuff with like 3 more things at Ryerson or associated with Ryerson. So there's a lot that you got going on. But yeah, I could definitely see you as a play-by-play guy. You're really good with the Rams. And what are you looking to do in fourth year now? Is there something that you're looking forward to do, or something that you want to get more involved in fourth year?
Well, I can't wait to get back to Rams Live, and call more games there. That's the most fun I have on doing anything with Ryerson Sport Media, I would say. So that's probably what I'm looking forward to most in fourth year, and I'm sure whatever I do for practicum will be a lot of fun as well.
Sure.
Let's dive into some of the stuff that you've done during the pandemic, and we'll sort of wrap up with the virtual things you've done. But we do have to talk about your sports experience, because I want to talk about that, especially fishing, because I do like fishing.
You've been on my Instagram, I know.
Look, doing research for this thing is a lot of fun, because they get to go back to when you had short hair and see what you look like with facial hair.
Wow, is that... does it go that far back on my Instagram?
Oh, yeah. And secret, you can't control what people tag you in, so looking at the tagged pictures also helps.
No.
You can control what people tag you in too. You can remove the tag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't. So you got everything.
So you could go back to like 12-year-old Thomas, where you had like up here sort of hair.
Yeah,
doing that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love doing this show because I love doing research and finding out about everybody in this program, because you just find out about the stuff that you wouldn't normally. Like, it's hilarious. But you did a lot of stuff with Zach Finch, who you also live with, who's also in the next room over, surrounding the ENHL playoffs, which I thought was a really good idea. And I believe you did the entire playoffs, correct?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
So what was that experience like? It was a Twitch series that you did. It gained a decent following. So how did you sort of find doing the NHL playoffs?
That was a lot of work as well. And obviously we had a big crew behind that, or a moderate sized crew. But yeah, Zach and I produced it. So the idea of the show was when the NHL went on pause, we pretended like that was the end of the season, and we just simulated the playoffs from there, like what all the matchups would be. So Zach Finch would record all of the games on his PS4, and we would call. We didn't do the games live. We streamed them live, but we didn't do many games live. Anything we could do recorded, we did. And we had Kayla and Therese, who were our graphics people. And I don't know how I was able to get them as the graphics people, but they made the show. And we had a nice Instagram page running with them, and they just made absolutely gorgeous graphics for us. And we draw a few people in there. And Zach and I would call most of the games, and we had Eric Cruikshank and Dana Ryan call a couple games as well. Cole Stanwick called a couple games, and we would send them whatever game they were calling. So if I was calling, the Leafs and the Lightning, I would go on the Google Drive and grab that game, and then hit play and call the game. Mm-hmm. And we'd each get like a series. So it once we got less and less games, I think it ended up just being me and Zach at the end, and we did play-by-play in color for those games. But yeah, it was just kind of a daily routine. We'd broadcast 2 games a day. I'd call my game in the morning, upload it to the Google Drive. Zach would upload his to the Google Drive, and then at 7 o'clock or whenever we started, I would hit play on OBS, and we did pretty well on Twitch. We got Twitch affiliate, I believe, which is
wow.
I think that's just like 75 followers or something like that. But we would we promoted it as much as we could, and I think we have on our Twitch channel now we have 94,000 views.
Wow.
So wow. Yeah, we got a bit of a following, so it was kind of fun to do. And we technically were making money on it, but we linked it up with the Project Hope Foundation, which is like a COVID thing. So we kind of started it out as we're going to do these broadcasts to try and make the pandemic go away faster. So I think we raised $210 for Project Hope. And we had like a bunch of people that would come back, and there were some really generous people as well. They donated like $30 or something like that. So whoever they were, we appreciate that. And it was just kind of fun. And then we did a broadcast the other day after being gone for like 2 months, and we still had some of those followers. So we made some friends on Twitch, which was kind of fun.
What was the broadcast you did yesterday?
It was like a couple of weeks ago. We did. We're working with. This is Zach and I again. We're working with Ryerson Esports NHL 21 team, mm-hmm. And we're planning to do some more of those as well. It's kind of fun. We got Brandon Cassidy as our producer on that as well. So continuing to use the connections.
That's amazing.
So what's next for NHL playoffs? Are you going to do it again for this upcoming season potentially?
Maybe. It's really fun doing. I think we're gonna try and move to do more live stuff, because I think the only time that we would ever be calling the games live on the NHL was if someone just didn't upload their thing in time.
Oh, true.
And because it takes a long time, because these broadcasts are 40 minutes long, right?
Yeah.
So uploading a 40-minute clip, if you don't have good Wi-Fi, uploading and downloading a 40-minute clip takes a couple hours. So you gotta call your game in the morning, or if you get behind, I usually try to stay one day ahead, in case I had to call 2 games in one day. But yeah, when we did a live broadcast on the ENHL network, which is our Twitch channel, or ENHL Playoffs, I think is the Twitch name.
It'll be
And
linked
that
below.
was yeah, that was a lot of fun. So I think we're gonna try and move in to do more stuff with like real players playing real players, and with the Ryerson esports team.
Hey, you're in the NHL 21 group chat with all of us, I think.
Yes.
So you have an abundance of players at your disposal. Yeah, it was good to see you guys do something positive with the charity. But you were also involved with the Virtual Jays Network, I believe.
Yep. I was very, very loosely involved
Yeah.
with the Virtual Jays Network, but I hopped on with Drew Frank, and we called a couple of games. That was a lot of fun as well, because it's something in sport media that you don't get to do a lot, is called baseball games.
Yeah.
And, it's virtual, I know, but it's still very good practice and quite realistic. So, yeah, that was a good experience as well.
How did you find the transition going from hockey to baseball? Is it a lot tougher commentating a baseball game? I'm sure it must be.
It's different. Yeah, it's different. You gotta really learn to dial it back. If you come out of the gates in a baseball game calling it like it's the Stanley Cup final, you're in a lot of trouble.
It's like commentating in like a football announcer's voice, and it's like golf.
Yeah, you got to think a lot more golf. You definitely,
yeah. But yeah, what did you learn from that experience then with working with Drew again? I know you didn't have the biggest role, but how was it calling those few games?
It was a lot of fun. I think we had to call the games at like early in the morning or something like that. So I remember waking up really early for those games, which is kind of an interesting thing to do, because you never think, oh, I'm just gonna hop out of bed and jump on air. Like that's kind of a weird transition. But yeah, it was cool recording with Drew, because baseball is fun as well, because one of the most fun things about doing commentary is getting to talk to the color commentator that you're commentating with afterwards. And there's lots of that in baseball, because there's a break for the inning, right? Every single time. So every inning, when I'm calling, and we'll be right back on the Virtual Jays Network, and then you get to just spew some stuff to Drew and talk about what happened that inning. And it's it's a lot of fun when you get to chat and talk about what happened not on air with whoever you're calling it with, and baseball's the best place for that.
Nice.
Well, I think we've touched on most of your media stuff, so let's talk about your sports career a little bit.
Sure.
And everything that you've done there, and then we'll wrap up this discussion on you, and maybe we'll touch on the Fire, because I think that's there's a lot of stories there that are a lot of fun, and you just moved in today, or back in today, so it's a good timing. But we'll start off with your sports. As far as I could tell, the sports that you've played are sailing, rugby, which, good man, hockey, and baseball. Did you play any other sports that aren't on your Instagram?
Volleyball.
Volleyball.
Okay.
Yep, you're tall.
Yeah,
That
I
would make
wasn't
sense.
big into it, but yeah, I played a little bit of volleyball. That's the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
You were, I assume, front court?
No. Well, most of the volleyball I played was co-ed volleyball. I played volleyball through elementary school, and then I think volleyball overlapped in high school with some other sports, probably baseball, that I wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but if you played co-ed, you could play on two teams at once. So I remember playing co-ed, and if you're a guy, you have to be in the backcourt.
Oh,
Okay. I see.
okay. Interesting.
How was that team then? Did you do well with the co-ed team in volleyball?
No, the girls were way better than us. It was,
Ah.
it was not good. It's usually like, usually we didn't have a very strong volleyball team in our school, which is why I made the co-ed volleyball team. Like a lot less guys make the co-ed volleyball team than the actual volleyball team, right?
Right.
So,
Well, hello. We're back. Aiden's computer decided to die on us, so
Not
we're
die,
going to pick it
crash,
up
yeah.
from where we were.
Volleyball.
crash, sorry.
Volleyball.
Yes, we're going to pick it up from volleyball. I don't know where we cut off on volleyball, but
Thomas
basically,
said we bumped the ball up to the girls. That's all.
Yeah.
That was the last
there you
thing.
go.
Yeah, no, it was the girls on the team. They dominated. They were the MVPs. I think the only reason we lost games was because we just couldn't get the ball to our setter, or we would just make a hellish play for them. So that was co-ed volleyball high school for us.
What other sports did you play in high school? Like I mentioned, the sailing, the hockey, and the baseball. We'll talk more in detail in sailing after we've talked about hockey and rugby.
Yeah.
But did you play any other sports in high school?
Yeah. So baseball was my big sport.
Right.
In high school. We had baseball was fun in high school because it wasn't as hard as the rep teams that we played on, and I was a pitcher and a center fielder, and when I played in high school, I was a shortstop because
You got a good arm.
it's just where you put people who. That's why if you have someone who plays rep baseball in high school, he's playing shortstop. Like it's a waste not to put him in center. If the ball is getting jacked out there in center field and people are having to make tough plays in high school baseball, you got bigger problems. So yeah, I'd play shortstop and I'd pitch, and we had a relatively weak baseball team, which was really fun for me because when I played baseball on the rep team, I never got to be the captain of the team or a leader on the team. And in high school baseball, it's like I coached and I played. So it was, I think the coolest experience was we had a cricket player who went to our high school, and he came to the baseball tryouts. And I shouldn't say that we had a coach. We had a very good coach, but when you have a whole baseball team, it's impossible for I would take the outfielders and show them stuff, and Mr. Tang, our baseball coach, would take the infielders and pitchers. But we had a cricket player, and he was a bowler, which is the
Pitcher.
pitcher of cricket, yeah. And he it was incredible how hard he could throw the ball.
I feel like I've seen
And
this movie.
I don't know if you've watched. Yeah, I know. Yeah, $1 million arm. Yeah. But except $1 million arm, the pitchers weren't cricket players. They were just from India. But yeah,
Looking back on that was definitely not politically correct. When I think about that now,
yeah.
They just go to India and pick a couple of guys who can throw a ball hard.
But that was the thing. They wanted to find bowlers from India, and then they found out later the two guys are like, "Oh, we don't play cricket. Like, we could just throw the ball hard."
Yeah.
So I guess that's
Okay.
correct. Anyway, this guy was a bowler and he played cricket. And oh my God, could he ever throw the ball hard? But oh my God, was he ever inaccurate? And it was the coolest thing for me because our coach, Mr. Tang, kind of tasked me. He said, this guy's going to make our team, and I'm going to make it your job to try and teach him how to pitch. And oh man, that was hard, but it was a cool experience. And his English wasn't very good, so I would have to show him by demonstrating most of the time. But he could throw the ball way harder than me. Like he'd probably throw 88, 89.
Wow. Okay.
And that blows people away. Like he threw in the 80s easily. That blows people away in high school.
In high school, yeah.
But
for sure. Wow.
he would. It was the hardest thing to try and get him not to balk on the mound because he couldn't keep his back foot on the rubber, and he would pull his feet off the rubber, or he would make a sudden motion with runners on base, and it would be a balk. So he'd balk in runs all the time. But eventually we got him because no one could hit him. It was just a matter of whether he could hit the strike zone. No one could hit anything he threw. And Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just thinking about this story right now, and it's literally $1 Million Arm. But I'll tell it anyway. It's literally the same. Yeah. Eventually, like I worked with him on his mechanics and stuff like that, and it was funky. But I figured out it was my mission was kind of not necessarily get him to throw accurate because I knew he could do that once he figured it out. It was a matter of trying to get him to throw so it wouldn't be a balk, and he figured that out eventually, and he would just blow guys away. He'd come in for 2 innings and walk 3 and strike out 3. So it was good. Lots of scoreless innings. He'd just make it really close because no one's putting the ball in play. He throws 80 miles an hour, not a chance. And I think you remember $1 Million Arm as well, how when they developed the curveball, because they realized that bowlers, would put spin on the ball. And we did the exact same thing as they did, where he was like, in baseball, like they have curveballs, right? And he's like, oh, really? He's like, I spin the ball in cricket. I was like, okay, well, go ahead. He just throws this nasty curveball. And I was like, okay, yeah.
We're good. Yeah, we're set.
Sure. We can. Yeah, so he would throw he had like a bunch of different I don't even know what he was throwing. He would throw like a bit of a cutter and his fastball blew people away. But he also threw like a nasty eephus curve.
Jeez.
And I don't know what it was, but it was pretty nasty. But baseball was fun for me. It was really easy, and I got to kind of show other people who didn't play baseball as much some cool stuff, and I got to try and put as much of my impression on the team as I could, which was a really cool experience.
What was his best pitch?
It's fastball. Yeah, it's fastball. No one could hit him.
Fastball.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's an amazing story.
But he would. Actually, I forgot the craziest story. So there's no gloves in cricket, right?
Yeah.
He hated wearing his glove.
Oh, no.
He would not wear it. So he would go. The first time he walked on the mound, he took it off and put it beside him. And the umpire's like, no, you have to wear your glove. He's like, okay, whatever.
Wow.
Ball gets scotched straight up. Okay. And I'm the shortstop, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not getting that. Like the pitcher's the only one that's getting that. He's looking up at it, holding his glove, just drops his glove and catches it barehanded. It was the most incredible play. Like this guy hit it 100 feet high, straight up. Like I don't even know. Like it would kill your hands. And he was like, no, I can't. He dropped his glove.
Have you ever held a cricket ball?
Yeah, it's smaller too, way smaller.
And it's solid rock.
Yeah.
Like their hands are just unbelievably strong.
Yeah.
But that's hilarious. I love that.
Yeah.
I wonder why they don't make more like cricket players or people who have cricket backgrounds outfielders. Because if they can just fire a ball and they're incredibly quick and able to make insane catches.
Yeah. Without gloves.
I mean, it's a great idea. And I mean, well, it happened technically, but yeah.
Well,
cool.
Let's talk a bit about rugby and hockey because I love rugby. I've made that a known fact because I forced us to talk about it on the podcast. But we'll start with hockey, then we'll hit rugby. How much hockey did you play growing up?
I played house league for 9 years, and loved it. Just I'm not a good skater, and never was a good skater. But if you're playing house league, you don't really have to be. But yeah, a lot of early mornings, going to the rink, playing hockey like any other Canadian boy, and that was most of my childhood in the winter.
How many championships did you end up winning in house league?
2.
2? Same? No, I only won 1. Only won 1. Yeah.
Oh, good. We go 0-1-2.
I played on a lot of really bad teams too, but you need a couple superstars, and you're pretty much set in house league. We had a really good goalie, I remember, for the years as well.
What position did you play, and were you indoor or outdoor?
Indoor, and I was a defenseman for all 9 years. I played forward for one shift.
Yeah.
And I remember I scored 3 goals on the one shift.
Whoa, okay.
It was when I was younger, but I remember very clearly. Actually, I think I'd probably talk about it a lot because it's kind of cool. but I was there was a really bad goalie in that, and I got ripped a couple from the point on a break in or something like that, and
Yeah.
I think one of them was from center ice too.
Jeez. Okay. Yeah.
Poor goalie.
Yeah,
At that point, I think you just lie down and hope the puck hits you.
yeah, I didn't. Took 3 shots, none of them hit him. Good for me.
That's hilarious.
How old were you
Yeah.
when this happened?
15.
Yeah, I was a-
Okay, that's a lot older than I thought you were going to say.
Wait, what did he say?
You were
I didn't hear.
12.
12.
Oh, it was
okay.
pure luck. I wasn't a good player. It was pure luck, but it's
It's a really bad goalie. Yeah.
There you go.
Did you have the same rule where you could only score 3 goals in a game?
I think it was 4. I think it was 4 in our league.
Okay.
I didn't have
But
that
yeah.
rule, I don't think.
Yeah, we had it. I remember it. Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you just play house league, or were you higher than that?
house league. Yeah, only house league. I like I said, like I hockey was never my strong suit. I just liked the game.
Yeah.
But I focused most of my time on baseball. That was pretty much the biggest thing for me.
What about you, Aiden? Did you just play house league, or did you play up a little bit?
No.
Yeah, just house league for hockey. Oh
Yeah,
for Aiden.
yeah, no,
Aiden.
same,
Yeah.
same with me. Just house league for hockey. Didn't really want to get into high school stuff. I played high school baseball. I played baseball for 10 years as well as hockey for 10 years, and then I played high school baseball for 3 out of my 4 years. In grade 11, I couldn't play because I transferred schools, and apparently there's like a rule in high school sports where you can't play your first year at a new school because some schools do that, where they just recruit guys to go onto their teams, which they thought that my school was doing that for me, but that wasn't the case. I went there for a media program actually, yeah, so I couldn't play then, but it was nice because I also had the same coach all my 3 years playing, because the coach that I had at my first school for the 2 years, he transferred to the same school that I transferred to. So I stuck with him for the 3 years. So that was pretty cool. So we knew each other. I played center field as well there, and yeah, it was good. It's good. It's a good experience. We won 1 championship and then 2 tournament championships. So we had a good team.
That's not bad, not bad. Let's touch on rugby. I don't know how much you played, but you're a big guy, so it makes
Yeah.
sense. Did you play 15s, 13s, or 7s?
Yeah, I played 7s, so I only
Right.
played 7s, and I would have played 15s. I got into it in high school. Like I had never played rugby before high school, and then a lot of the guys, like I had a lot of my friends in high school were pretty big guys, and we all decided we wanted to play rugby. So we got into it, and yeah, we trained for it, but we couldn't play. I personally couldn't play in the winter because it was the same as baseball, or in the spring. I don't remember what it was, but it was the same as baseball season, 15s. So I could only play 7s.
Huh. What position were you? I assume center, somewhere like that.
Yeah, no, I played fly half most of the time.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I mean, in 7s, you move around a lot. So I was I stayed on the wing, and I ran as fast as I could, and then I got drilled a lot. But yeah, that was pretty much me. I didn't pass the ball a lot. I was usually the last guy on the wing.
I was also a winger when I played in middle school, and the reason I didn't play high school was because people like you were playing, and
Yeah.
you guys were about twice the size of me. And that
No.
was not happening, so I switched to track and field, because in track and field, you can't get a concussion unless you fall on your face.
Yeah, yeah. And playing high school rugby as well, like it's a bunch of dudes with, a lot of testosterone going.
Yeah.
And, like you're finishing every tackle. Like it doesn't matter if you pass the ball away, you're still gonna get hit. And yeah, like rugby's supposed to be like a game where people are like, pretty gracious, like, right? Like it's
Oh, yeah.
a very disciplined game, and that was something that I liked about it. But I mean, like we would have fights in high school rugby, and someone tackles someone high or something. Like there was a lot of red cards handed out, I remember in the games, and because you got a couple of high school kids going, and yeah, it happens. But yeah,
Do you remember playing a school called Greenwood?
don't think so.
No?
No.
Okay, that was my high school. They were fairly decent at rugby. We had a couple good players.
Yeah, we weren't that good, so that's probably why.
Yeah, like the only way we probably would have played, or my high school would have played you would have been like OFSA or some sort of tournament. But yeah, I don't know. Our famous alumni is Tom Wilson, so we're known mostly for like hockey, but we're also very good at rugby because a guy who played for the Toronto, or the guy who, our coach who started our rugby program, specifically the my program, which was the U14 sevens, he was on the Toronto Wolfpack before they were the Toronto Wolfpack.
Wow.
So the guy who started the Wolfpack, he was the player coach for them.
Wow.
So he started rugby program here. We won our championship in 2014, my grade 8 year. I didn't start because I was small and didn't like tackling people because small, frail, glasses. Although one thing you're not allowed to do in rugby if you're looking to get into it is you're not allowed to wear glasses because
Right.
sharp
Yeah.
objects on your head
Oh yeah.
when you're tackling with your head doesn't work the best, which I found out after spending hundreds of dollars on sports goggles. But
Can you wear
I
sport
digress.
goggles? Can you wear goggles?
Yeah.
no, unfortunately. So I got contacts, which weren't the right prescription because the other, if I were to get proper contacts, was like $600 for 3 pairs.
Okay. Wow.
That's a lot of money to spend on contacts that I will wear for maybe 4 games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love rugby. I'm so sad the Wolfpack left.
Yeah. Rugby was a lot of fun, and like it's so unique to any other sport. I mean, I guess you could maybe relate it to football, but just in terms of like being such like a disciplined game, and like it is literally a battle.
Mhm.
Like you're so easy to be like bonded with the guys beside you because you're taking hits and you're like physically tackling other people, and like the team mentality, like man, any person on any of the rugby teams that I played on, like I would stick up for them like anytime. Like you become so close with the people just because of the physical nature of the sport.
All right, last question I'll ask on rugby before we touch on sailing because you're very good at that. How many scraps did you get into, and how many cuts have you gotten? And have you broken your nose?
No, I haven't broken my nose. Scraps? I wouldn't say scraps. Like anything. Like I like to talk a little bit in rugby, but other than that, I don't think I ever really fought someone. The only time I remember getting in a bit of an altercation was there was another guy on another team that looked exactly the same as me, and we were lining. He was the fly half as well, so we were lining up together, and we knew we looked exactly like each other, and we were the exact same body type, and it was going to be a good battle. And I think right off the bat, he tackled me, and then I got up, and he picked me up and threw me out of bounds. And he got a red card, so I had to wait a couple of minutes for him to get back on. But the rest of the game, I was lining up with him every single time.
That's
Man.
nuts.
Yeah,
Like playing against
That
your
is
clone.
nuts.
yeah, but I
Once in
wasn't
a
even
lifetime
mad. Like we
opportunity.
both. Yeah, like we both knew, like we were both like the long-haired blonde kids. Like we're gonna let's just see how this goes. Let's see.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love rugby. But let's talk about sailing because that's what you primarily do, is probably the best way of putting it. So
Yeah.
for people who don't know what sailing is, tell us what you do as a sailor, I guess.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Okay. So I'm still in sailing right now. I hope I can stay in sailing for my whole life because it's probably my favorite thing to do. Right now, I coach the Sail Prairie Sound race team, which is the sailing team in Prairie Sound. But before that, I was part of the race team at Sail Prairie Sound. So basically, every sailing club, you have like your sailing school, and if you're good enough, they'll invite you to be on the race team. If like the instructors or the coaches see you racing, you get moved up. So I sail a boat that's called a 420, and it's a two-person boat. It has a couple sails on it, and I'm a skipper, which means that I'm the person steering the boat and I'm controlling the big sail. And the other person is the people that are like out on the trapeze, so the people that are like hooked in, hanging off the edge of the boat. And my job is to steer the boat and not hit other boats, and make sure that the person out on the trapeze doesn't get dunked in the water. So, so sailing races, if you've watched in the Olympics, it's exactly that. If you haven't watched in the Olympics, it's probably 40 to 100 boats that are all about 14 feet long, and they all you have like a start sequence. So they give you like a 5-minute countdown, and you have to, once you hit 0, then you cross a start line. So kind of the goal is you kind of want to stop your boat, which is hard because you don't have a motor, you're only sails, right? So you have to know how to control the wind in correlation with your boat really well, which takes a long time, but that's why you go through sailing school. And then it's just basically a battle of trying to get as much speed as you possibly can by trimming your sails or steering the boat or maneuvering around waves or getting positioning on other boats. And then other than that, it's just a battle of tactics, where you think the wind is going to be, how you think the wind is going to be shifting, and you just have to try and read that for the whole race. And races usually take about 45 minutes, and you spend the whole day on the water, get 3 or 4 races in, and regattas are usually like 5 days long. So you could get in 15 races. And then you tally up all your scores, and the person with the lowest score is the person who wins.
How did you get into sailing? How did it start off? Did you like get into it from a family member, or did you meet someone, or you just liked it, just thought it'd be cool, or?
Yeah, so I'm a first generation sailor in my family, so no one else really sailed before me. My dad decided to get a 27-foot CNC, which is basically like a sailing yacht. And which is, I'm not rich. Sailboats are pretty cheap because there's a lot of them out there, and not many people want to buy them. So you can basically get a sailboat that you could live on for less than $10,000. So if you're ever in a bind and you need somewhere to stay, you could buy a sailboat. That's pretty good way to live, and that's pretty much what I do in the summer. I live on my boat. But yeah, wait, what was your question again?
How did you get into it? How did it start off?
Yeah. So my dad bought the boat, and I thought it was pretty cool. It was scary. It was super scary being out on like the open water. You're in such a small boat. But I figured, well, I don't really want to be scared of this anymore. So there was a sailing club nearby, which not a lot of people can say realistically. But I'm lucky that it was near my cottage, and I usually spend the summer at my cottage. So my parents signed me up for sailing lessons, and pretty much loved it from there. And once I realized that I was kind of good at it, I wanted to be more competitive at it. And once I got called up to be on the Sail Prairie Sound race team, it was I pretty much I ran with that for a couple of years, and then baseball kind of got in the way because I thought I was going to be a Major League Baseball player, but that wasn't even close. But so I took a couple of years off, but I got back into sailing, and I'm very glad that I did.
So how good were you?
Yeah, exactly.
What's that?
How good were you?
How good was I? I don't know how to answer that. I was in the 420 class. Okay, the highest I ever got was number one in Canada and the junior position for one day in the 420 class. So we had a regatta that was at the Royal Canadian Yacht Club, and it was the Canadian Championships. So if you want to call that how you rank how good people are in Canada, then you can. You could also argue that potentially there were boats that were really good that just didn't go to the Canadian Championships that could be better. But if we're going to be talking about how you're ranked, that's probably a pretty good way to tell you. We had a really good first day of racing at the Canadian Championships, and we were ranked first after the first day. And when you're ranked first at a big regatta, they give you like pinnies that you wear, like it's called a rash guard that you wear over your life jacket, and we were wearing like the gold medal rash guards, so like people could see who the leaders were. And oh man, that killed us because we're walking out, with our rash guards on. We got like social media people taking pictures of us, and we're putting our boat in the water, and like there's a person interviewing us. So how are you feeling about today? And I'm like, oh yeah, like this is awesome. I can't believe I'm getting media attention from being a sailor. And we got destroyed that day because every single boat in the entire fleet was coming after us because we were the ones to beat, and we're the only people that everyone's sailing the same boat. You don't really know who's first and who's last, but when we're sitting there with the friggin' target on our back with the gold pennies, everyone was coming for us, and we got just destroyed that day. And I think we ended up 7th in that regatta. So that probably 7th in that regatta and first after the first day was probably the highest we got in junior sailing.
If I say the name Tom Ramshaw, is it familiar?
I would say that he's a Canadian sailor and sails a Finn.
All right. He is an alumni from Greenwood.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a Finn sailor. I think he did a bit of star sailing. I haven't met him. He's a sailing god. But yeah, he's been to the Olympics. I think he placed 7th in the Finn class a couple of years ago. So he's kind of a Canadian hero, I would say, in sailing. He's a good guy.
Okay. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, I saw him talk a couple weeks ago. Because my high school put on a sports panel with a bunch of people, and he was one of them. Although really he wasn't top of the list because they got Tom Wilson, of course. And I didn't know this, but Mark Shapiro's daughter goes to my school, so they got him.
Oh, wow, cool.
Cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, I heard him talk. He is a very laid back dude, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like sailors are like surfers, like surfers going with the the little saw dude or whatever. Yeah, that's
the vibe I got.
That's the culture of sailing. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. That's really interesting. So you would say you weren't good enough to make Team Canada then?
Well, I mean, so sailing's interesting because to make Team Canada as a 420 sailor, no, because you have to sail a 470. There's no 420 Olympic class. So I'd have to move up into a different class of boat, which is not a big deal. If I was to sail 470, I don't know. There's only like 4,000 of them in Canada. So a lot of them are in really bad conditions. I'm talking about like the boat themselves. So if I got a good, it's sailing is kind of like Formula One in the sense that if you have a better boat, you're also better.
Right.
So since I'm from Parry Sound Sailing School, going up against yacht clubs, like it's a lot. Like we have a lot lower budget, right? So I don't know. I guess I was kind of like a George Russell of the pack, right? Like we didn't have like the best equipment available, so it would have been interesting to see how we did if we had the best equipment available all the time. But we had some good quality boats, and when I was on the race team as well, they invested a lot in our race team because we had a really good group of sailors. So that helped us in terms of having a good boat. But it's not always 100%. The best sailor wins. And, like there is a factor of money and training and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting. didn't realize it was so similar to F1, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But I want to wrap up our conversation because I don't know if I missed anything in terms of your sailing information. Actually, I did miss something. You won an award, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, I have a couple. I mean, there's Prairie Sound's a small town. A lot of people win awards in Prairie Sound, but I think you're probably talking about the Vic Carpenter Award, which is
Right.
the Sail Prairie Sound Award for sailing excellence in Prairie Sound, and yeah, you get it in the newspaper and stuff like that. That's kind of fun. My biggest achievement, I would say, in sailing would be we placed second at the at Cork, which is the Canadian International Regatta in Kingston, and that was probably the one of the. I'm thinking about all like the cool moments in my life. That's probably the one that comes to mind in that one. I mean, like we didn't think we were going to do that well, and we ended up getting a silver medal there. So that was probably the biggest thing I've done in sailing.
How long would it take for you to list off every award and thing you've won?
In
If you had
sailing,
to guess. Yeah.
not that long. I mean, I've done a bit of like I haven't sailed with that many different teams. It's been Sail Prairie Sound and the UFT sailing team, which
Okay.
is kind of complicated how I can sail there. But Rajan doesn't have a team, so I can sail for UFT. But
That's the same situation as Marissa Papaconstantino, correct? Or Papaconstantino.
yeah, she's way cooler than me. But I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, because she runs for the UFT track team because
I wouldn't put her in the same category. Yeah,
it's the same situation. There's
Yes.
no team,
Yeah.
so they have to compete with UFT. Which
yeah,
I feel like York is probably pissed off because they didn't get all of Ryerson's talent. But
yeah.
I guess UFT wins it out. I don't know. But let's wrap up with the conversation on you because you like to fish. It is very apparent on your Instagram. So I have 3 questions,
Okay.
all relating to your favorite. So, what is your favorite spots to fish, favorite fish to catch, and favorite type of fishing?
Okay. So, my favorite spot to fish. A lot of my fishing comes on Whitestone Lake, but the fishing there is not that great. Like you gotta work for it. So I would probably say my dad and I uh, go on our sailboat around. We cruise around Georgian Bay in the summer sometimes, and there's this spot in the French River on Georgian Bay that you can only get to via boat. And we take our sailboat in there, then we take the little dinghy off of our sailboat, and we'll go fishing in that. And it's some of the most incredible bass fishing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like I think we came out with probably like 11 bass in like a couple hours there, and we were just fishing this one spot. And I think each bass was probably I don't know how much you know about fishing, but each bass probably an average of like 5.5 pounds. So we were
That's
just it was just
big.
incredible, and like this river is just teeming with life. Incredible fishing spot. So I would say probably French River. It's my favorite spot to fish. What are the other ones?
Favorite fish to catch
Yeah.
and
Okay.
type of fishing.
Yeah. Okay. So bass would be favorite fish to catch, and I would say topwater fishing would be my favorite type of fishing.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
I don't know fishing, so
fishing
I
isn't
can't
my-
comment, but sounds good.
I'm very modern. I know absolutely nothing. I just like to fish off the dock at my grandparents' cottage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, rock bass is the main catch for me
Yeah.
because that's all that's there.
Nice.
But yeah, I don't. You might have heard of my lake, Memphremagog in Quebec. It's one of the. It's got salmon, which is the only reason you might have heard of it.
Oh, okay, that's really cool. Yeah, you should get into fishing. If you got salmon on your lake, that's
Yeah,
I do like salmon.
like,
Salmon's yummy.
yeah.
go to Memphremagog and you can get fresh salmon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's something that you had a lot on your Instagram, and clearly something you enjoy. So it's an
Yep.
interesting hobby. But We'll wrap up our conversation on you before we get into sports because we still have to do that. But we'll fire through that pretty quick. We'll only have a couple in-depth conversations because wow, it's been a while. We've stuck Thomas with us for 2 hours so far.
No, this is a lot of fun, guys. I'd come on anytime. It's fun chatting with you guys for sure.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on. And we wrap up every conversation about you and about our guest with the same question, and that is, what are your? Do we do top 3 or top 5?
We do 3, I think. Yeah.
3?
Yeah. It's been a while.
You
But
can
yeah,
do top 3 or top 5. Yeah, you can do top 3 or top 5. But top 3 or top 5 pieces of advice or suggestions you have for somebody looking to get into sport media.
Sure. Okay, I wouldn't say in any particular order, but I'll do.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, I guess I can talk about to being on air because that's what I do the most of. And the biggest thing about being on air is to listen. And whether that is you're listening to people that are giving you advice, even if you don't agree with them, or if it's people that you're doing an interview with, like you're doing an interview, the biggest thing, and I can tell that you guys do it really well, but you've also done this a lot, is listening to what the person is saying. Because if you listen to what the person is saying, you could do an interview for like 10 hours.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we could talk for like 10 hours because everything I say,
go for a lot longer.
and like you want to know more, right? But also listening to like people who are criticizing you or people who know more than you, because even if someone doesn't know more than you, they still anyone has a valid opinion about you being on air, because you're entertaining an audience that doesn't know anything about sport media. So you can go ahead and be as technically correct as you want about sport media, but if people don't know what you're talking about, they should fully be criticizing you because you're not entertaining the majority of the people. So that would definitely be one piece of advice, to listen. I guess my second would be to try and make as many connections as you can. And, anyone that you meet, you make a connection and you keep their number in your phone, because they could definitely help you out down the line. I have definitely experienced that a couple times already in my young career in sport media. And then the third would be to try and make a good impression on whatever you're doing, right? If you're, whether it's your professor in sport media or, your TA and TV lab or something like that, those are all people that could hire you in the future or people that could recommend you to someone else. But you also don't want to, kill any relationships with people in sport media as well, right? Even if you don't like someone in sport media, or you don't like someone in, media that you've talked to, or you don't like an athlete, especially, like those are all connections that can help you out in the future. So, whether you like them or you don't, you kind of have to suck it up and be professional whenever you're dealing with a situation like that. So that would probably be my top 3 pieces of advice.
Those are good pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something you don't think about when you're talking about doing play-by-play is listening.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that. That's I like that. That's very in-depth and interesting insight to how you view sport media and how you think people should pursue sport media, because I think it's very, very accurate in terms of making connections, not hurting those connections and sort of trying to kill them. But let's talk sports, because we're a sports show. We're a sport media show, but we're also a sports show. I think a sports show first. But we've been gone for a couple weeks, so we've missed a lot because everybody has signed, apart from a bunch of players, because they can't due to cap circumvention, which we'll touch on. But we'll start off with the one piece of news that neither of you care about, although, Thomas, you might care about it a little bit because we talked a bit while Aiden was gone about it. But Lewis Hamilton is now Sir Lewis Hamilton. He has been knighted by the Queen of England, and I think that is incredible to see Lewis Hamilton get knighted for everything that he's done in sports and in F1. I doubt, Aiden, you have anything you want to add to Lewis Hamilton because you don't follow F1.
Not too sure
But
who
Thomas,
he is, to be honest, but I've heard it's big news. I read an article. Look, seems like a good guy. So yeah, I'm not sure what he's done. What has he done? Why did he get knighted?
Yeah, he wins a lot.
Wins a lot.
He wins
Yeah.
a lot.
he's that guy who broke the record. We
So
talked
what-
about
what-
it a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've heard his name
maybe
before.
you
Yeah.
know this, Connor, but what is getting knighted? What benefits do you have for getting knighted? What does that mean for him?
People get to call him Sir.
Okay.
He gets to use that. I think there's a special thing on in Buckingham Palace. They put his name like on the roof in one building, I think, while he's alive. And it's just an incredible honor to be knighted by the royal family in Britain.
That's true. Yeah.
Just to even be considered to be knighted is amazing. And people dream of it. And it's sort of acknowledging him for being something incredibly special and somebody incredibly important. But I don't know a ton about it. This is my very basic knowledge on getting knighted by the English royal family. I just know it's a very, very big honor to be knighted by the Queen.
I wonder what other people, how other people in F1, like maybe other drivers, will react to that. Because I mean, if you follow F1 on social media, like they're kind of goofy, right? Like you know that they're going to be calling him Sir like a lot, and it might not always be in the context of being proper. But I'm wondering about like what do like younger guys like what is Max Verstappen and Lando Norris and Esteban Ocon, like are they gonna be silly about this, do you think, or when are they gonna be calling him Sir in a serious matter? I'd be interested to see how like the younger generation of F1 reacts to that.
I think he'll still just remain Lewis with them.
Yeah,
I think
but
this
I'm
is
just
more
saying,
like a
in
formal.
passing, like, are they going to say
Oh.
something about that, or are they going to make a joke about it, or are they going to take it seriously?
I think they'll do both. Like, obviously, like if your friend gets some award, you do chirp them a little bit for getting that award. At least in
Well,
my
it depends
friend
what the
group, I think.
reward is. I would say, if it's an award like this, I don't know if you would chirp. To be honest,
At least in my friend group, we would chirp each other. But that's just because we constantly insult each other.
if you got an award though,
Oh yeah,
I don't know about my friend group.
yeah, dude. I got made fun of a ton for winning the coaches award in track and field. Like,
Oh, no, it depends on the award. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would chirp you for
And,
that
like-
too.
yeah, of course. Every single person on the team who showed up to practice got an award on the track and
okay.
field team because there were like 10 of us. But yeah, like I think this is going to be something where like it's cool he gets to put this on his driver's license or on his passport. He's Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I'm not really sure what the exact benefits are, other than him being able to flex and say, "I'm a Sir, so listen to me."
Yeah.
But in terms of what he did, Aiden, he's he's a person of color. He's black. So he's been very vocal in the Black Lives Matter stuff, especially in the UK. Like he wore a Black Lives Matter T-shirt during or just before a race, and I think on the podium after he'd won. And F1 got mad at him, and I think he got in trouble. But he's been vocal in terms of that stuff. So that's one of the things he's done. He's also one of the greatest drivers of all time and has won more races than any human being ever in F1, passing Michael Schumacher this past season, or this season, I guess. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if it's over yet. But he's an incredible driver with an incredible car. But yeah, he's just I think he deserves the knighting, to put it that way. I don't know, Thomas, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's interesting as well. You talk about him having a good car, right? because
Mhm.
there'll be so many people that say, oh, Lewis Hamilton. Well, if he hadn't been with Mercedes, he wouldn't have won seven titles. And like they're probably right, but
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting with I don't know if you remember when George Russell raced in Mercedes, and
Yeah, this
he,
this past season, right?
he could have won that race so easily, but I think it's so important that he didn't win this race for Lewis Hamilton's sake, just because, and for Bottas too, because Bottas still technically finished above him, but it's so important for I think Lewis Hamilton's name that George Russell didn't just step into his car and win, even though he totally could have, and Mercedes completely screwed him up. But
Yeah. Well, George Russell is still a very good driver, though. Like,
yeah,
he'll
I
be
know.
the next big thing.
Yeah, he will.
Like,
Yeah.
pretty much a guarantee. But yeah, like to have him immediately step in wouldn't have been amazing. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I don't think it would have been the end of the world, and it would have been incredibly cool.
And it makes George Russell's first win just so much sweeter as well. It's
Yeah.
the Sergio Perez thing, right? Where he hasn't
Yeah.
won in so long. He's been so close so many times. So
We're just speaking gibberish to Aiden right now. He has no idea who any of these.
Yeah, I didn't know Thomas knew this much about F1. That's pretty cool. Or NASCAR.
You find
whatever
out
you
a
guys
lot
are
from
talking
watching.
watch Drive to Survive, and you become an F1 fan.
Okay.
Not a good F1 fan, but you become a fan.
about. Okay.
It's that Netflix series I've been telling you to watch forever.
Yeah.
Which covers each of their seasons, and this season is going to be unbelievable. I am
yeah.
so excited for whenever it comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's stop gushing about F1 because Aiden does need to be involved in the conversation in some sort of manner, as opposed to just standing or staring at the camera bleary-eyed, trying not to fall asleep. So let's talk about baseball instead. As some baseball stuff happened involving the Toronto Blue Jays. Specifically, they are one of the finalists for George Springer. I believe they're one of two teams between them, and I want to say the Mets, not
Yeah.
the Nets, the Mets.
Yeah.
Do you think Toronto will end up with George Springer?
I really hope they do. And I actually do think that they will. I think I heard that their offer right now is not quite what Springer's looking for. I think the term is there, but he wants, I think, over $150 million. I think that's what it is his total contract value. The Jays just aren't doing that right now, but I do think that, like, I don't know when it's gonna happen. Like this MLB offseason has been very slow, as always. Most MLB seasons or off seasons are quiet, but I do think it's gonna get done. I think Rogers and the Jays are ready to compete and spend money. That's what Atkins and Shapiro have been saying. And outfield is a key spot for them right now. You know, there's a lot of uncertainty with Gurriel and Grichuk and Hernandez. Like, are those guys legit starters? And then there's also trade talks as well. There's rumors about Trevor Bauer coming here. I don't know. I think they could land Springer. I think they're very close. And if it's just them and the Mets, then I think the Jays have a good shot at getting him. And I think Springer's even said like he would love to play here. So it might be a good fit. The Jays just have to up their offer a bit. What about you, Thomas? What do you think?
Yeah, they could land Springer. I don't know if Springer saying he wants to play in Toronto or any professional athlete saying they want to play somewhere necessarily means that they would come here. But for the sake of argument, I guess I would say they won't land George Springer. Just they have the money to, absolutely, and he's like really good fit for the team, right?
Yeah.
Like Randall Grichuk played great last year in center field, but he can't be our center fielder. Like if the Toronto Blue Jays are looking to make a deep playoff run, you need a legitimate center fielder. So I mean, George Springer fits that role perfectly, and he would be the top three hitter on the team. So that would be incredible. And depending on how Vlad plays, it could be higher than that.
Yeah.
I don't know if George Springer wants to come to Toronto just from a personal standpoint, because I mean he's going to have this problem with every team, but I mean people don't forget about the Houston Astros cheating thing, and
True.
he's going to be right in the center of that. And I don't know, just being Canada and being Toronto, having George Springer on the team, I don't know if it's a good reputation. Maybe it is. If he plays really well, fans will forget about it.
Hmm.
But I don't know what that's going to do to George Springer if he walks on the field and Rogers Center's booing him, right? Like, I don't know how that affects him. But George Springer a good target for the Blue Jays? And if they can land him, should they? I would say yes.
Was he very involved in the Astros thing? I know Altuve was one of the big players.
Yeah, Altuve was, but I'm just fans aren't reading into it that much.
No,
they see a
that's
Houston Astros logo and it's a no. Even if it's a pitcher, they're probably not too happy with them.
For sure.
True.
I don't know. I think we're also very nice people here. we I don't
That's
see
very true.
I don't see
Use
us
that now.
I don't see us
God.
booing him if he was on our team. But it is something that the Jays would have to deal with when they travel. Like every single time he goes up to bat, there will be at least one fan that's booing him. So but at the end of the day, like you said it, if he plays well, then fans are going to forget about it.
Yeah.
It's true. What about Japanese pitcher Tomiyuki Sagano?
Yeah.
Sugano.
So this news came out today. And yeah, he was 14-2 last year with a 1.97 ERA. The Jays look to be one of the favorites to get him. I think he has until tomorrow to sign with an MLB team if he wants to. And obviously, I think, having Ryu might help with that. Ryu's Korean, but this guy is Japanese, but I'm sure they've been talking, both pitchers, both guys that have connections over there. So I think it could be a good fit. The Jays need pitchers, and this is, it's low risk, high reward, I would say. Like, he's one of the best guys in Japan. It's kind of the same as that Shun Yamaguchi thing last year, and I mean, he was okay. He got off to an awful start, but I think he regrouped a little bit at the end, and he was a good bullpen piece. I think this guy should be better than him. Hopefully, he's. I think scouts are a bit higher on him. So I mean, I don't think it's like a crazy franchise-changing move if you get this guy, but it could help a lot, and the Jays could always use more pitching depth. So let's hope they get him. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we have to look at is that Japanese baseball is a lot different than American baseball. And that's just in terms of skill level, one thing. But a lot of the time when Japanese players come across over the sea and play in America, they have a lot of problems with, pitching and also trying to get in the same routine that they do in Japan. Mm-hmm. Because it's a lot different pitching in America because we're very worried about Tommy John injuries. Yeah. And how many pitches they're throwing in the bullpen. In Japan, Japanese pitchers will throw 200 pitches on an off day. Uh-huh. We're gonna work on our curveball today. Go out and throw 200. That would never happen in Major League Baseball. So Shigano is gonna have to he's looking at a completely different world. So he could either embrace that, or I think you made a good point when you talked about Shun Yamaguchi. He was a mess when he first came to Toronto, right? And he got a little better. He became effective, I guess. But when he first came to Toronto, that was very evident that it was a problem. Just the culture and the way American baseball is played rather than Japanese baseball.
Didn't the Jays miss out on a guy too?
I think they missed out on was it a hitter?
Signed with the Padres? Yeah.
Yeah.
Signed with the Padres, I think.
So. Yeah.
He was an infielder. I can't remember his name. But they've had past success with bringing in international talent, so I guess you can't fully rule this out. Are they the favorites to sign him?
I think so. They're the only team I'm seeing right now. I can try and look into it some more. Apparently, they've made a strong bid to sign him. Ken Rosenthal reported that. He's also drawn interest from the Red Sox, the Mets, Yankees, Giants, and Rangers. but yeah, apparently the Jays are the favorites. So we'll see what happens.
Is there a player?
He has a 101-49 record in 8 seasons with the Giants in Japan, with a 2.32 ERA in those 8 seasons. That's pretty impressive. But yet again, it is Japan, so who knows?
Are there a player? Is there a player that the Mets are not in on?
Yes.
Yeah. Trevor Bauer.
Yeah.
Fair. But yeah, I've just seen their name involved in everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. The Blue Jays aren't involved with Trevor Bauer either. You could say the same thing about the Blue Jays about being involved with every team. I don't know. I wouldn't, if you're a Toronto fan, I wouldn't get too excited about massive free agents coming to Toronto. We're not going to sign 2. We might sign 1, but I don't know how many Major League Baseballs want to come play baseball in Canada.
Yeah. I think, I agree with that. I do think Atkins wants to have a big offseason, though. So whether that be sign a free agent and then make a trade for another starter, I think they will have at least 2 new starters on the team for next year. And that could even mean trading Lourdes Gurriel Jr. if they wanted to get an improvement, whether that be even... I mean, we saw Lindor's name out there earlier in the offseason, and that could still happen, but I definitely think you would lose a starter in that trade. You can't just trade prospects to get it. I think the Indians would want a roster player back, and it's probably going to be Gurriel, I would say. And then sign Springer to replace him. I would be okay with that.
The Cleveland baseball team.
Yeah. Sorry. My bad. I'm so sorry.
Are they even official? I don't think they're officially that yet. I think they're still sticking with their
They're just
racist
Cleveland.
name. Yeah. They're sticking with their racist name until they become a new team or a new final name. But yeah,
they are changing it though. They are changing.
They are changing it, which it's about time. But they could have done it better, to say the least. But let's move on to football, where it's not much better. Aiden, I'll just let you take all this because I feel like you and
yeah, it's an exciting time for the NFL. This is the moment that fans have been waiting for. Playoff season. It's a different playoff format this year. More teams made it. So yeah, wild card matchups start this weekend. It's a jam-packed weekend. You got 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and then I think 8 o'clock for all the games. So you can just sit on your couch and watch football all day if you want to. You got some great quarterbacks playing. Tom Brady's playing. Drew Brees is playing. Roethlisberger. So we got some matchups. I guess I was just thinking I say my predictions for each of the matchups. You got 6 here. The first one to start on Saturday at 1 is Colts Bills, and that's an exciting game. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you know this is it for you. And I think they're gonna win. The Colts are a good team. They got Phillip Rivers. He's got plenty of experience, but the Bills are just too good. You know, they finished with the 2nd seed in the AFC, and Josh Allen's looking like MVP caliber. Stephon Diggs is having a big year, so I'm taking the Bills in that one for sure. Rams, Seahawks, or do you guys want to make predictions on this too? Who do you think is going to win, Colts or Bills?
I'll take Josh Allen and the Bills. Colts have a good team, but if we're talking about teams that are kind of trending up right now, like I know the Bills had the really good start, but if we're talking about teams that are trending up in the NFL, this is Josh Allen. He's hot, definitely hot right now.
For sure. Rams, Seahawks is the next game. 2 teams in the same division. They've been battling it out all season long. They've been really tight in the standings. It's Jared Goff against Russell Wilson, and people forget, but the Seahawks started the season 5-0. They were looking to run away with this thing, but they've cooled off a lot. This is a toss-up. This really is a toss-up, but at the end of the day, I got to take Wilson over Goff. Also, the Seahawks have that Super Bowl win under their belts. The Rams weren't able to do that when they got there. So I'll take the Seahawks. What about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a betting guy, the Rams might not be the worst pick to take. I mean, they have an experienced quarterback in Goff, but I mean, I don't know. Russell Wilson's he's been there.
What's the betting right now? What are they minus?
Rams are at 2.5 and Seahawks are 1.5.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be a good game, and yeah, I could see it. Oh wait, hold on. Goff is playing, right? Or is he injured?
Yeah.
No, he's healthy. I just want to double check that.
I have no idea.
He's questionable. He's questionable with a thumb injury. So yeah, as of yesterday, he was listed as limited. So yeah, if he doesn't play, then
Russell runs away with that.
Yeah. Okay. Next matchup, we got the Washington football team against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll have to take the Bucs. Tampa Bay's got it. Tom Brady. I think they could go to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, Brady and the Bucs.
Yeah,
100%. And I would have said Washington. They beat the Steelers and they looked really good, but it's been downhill after that little 2-game win streak.
Didn't they win? They won last week. I think who'd they play? The Eagles, I think.
Yeah, the Eagles. Yes,
yeah, dude, they're not good. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. The Eagles, who were in a lot of trouble for wanting to throw that game.
Yeah.
I guess it's a momentum booster, but especially with the media talking about how they didn't deserve the game, I can't imagine they feel too good about that.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Bucs in that one. Ravens, Titans. I think this game, this is a rematch from last year's wild card, I believe, too. Or was it I don't know if it was wild card or the round after that. But Lamar Jackson and the Ravens lost this game. Derrick Henry just decided to go off. I could see this being an upset again. If Derrick Henry goes off, he can win the game for them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Especially, I think Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback. But
for sure,
in terms of a guy who has a lot of eyeballs on him, right? Like, you'd imagine that's probably in the back of his mind.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'll take the Titans. Why not? I'll take the Titans in that. Then the next one. Oh wait, did I mess this up?
No, you're good.
No, well, I put the next matchup as Bears versus Saints is the next one. I put Bears versus Titans as well, but Bears versus Saints.
I wasn't looking at you.
Yeah, Bears versus Saints. I'm gonna take the Saints. I think Drew Brees and them are also Super Bowl contenders. I don't believe in Mitch Trubisky. I don't know if Thomas, do you have a different opinion on that? But I don't think he's a good quarterback, and I don't like the Bears.
Yeah, Brees and the Saints, definitely.
Yeah.
And Trubisky, this isn't one of those moments where I see Mitch Trubisky all of a sudden having a bright spot for the Bears and being worth that trade so they could pick him. So, yeah, we'll go Brees and the Saints for sure.
All right, yeah, safe bet there. And then
final game, Browns versus the Steelers and COVID.
Yeah, yeah, literally.
Yeah.
This is an interesting matchup because the Browns just beat the Steelers last week, and this doesn't happen too often where they play 2 weeks in a row. The Steelers are now the home team. I don't know what's going to happen in this one. It's going to be really close, I think.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Browns are a good bet. Steelers are favored pretty hard in the betting odds.
Even with all the COVID cases?
Are there still more COVID cases in Pittsburgh right now?
No.
Yeah. With all the cases, still Pittsburgh's a heavy favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. It may not even get played if they have more positives.
No,
Like, they may have to suspend it.
there
That's
was
a mess.
there was something that came out today 4 hours ago that the Browns have recorded no new positive tests. So that's a good sign.
Yeah. I
That
think
could
if they
change.
keep up with that, they'll be able to play. But I think if they have a few more, I'm not sure what they put the number at, but if they have more cases, they just have to suspend the game.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's a little bit better as well that this game's being played on Sunday rather than Saturday. Gives them an extra day.
Yeah, and
Figure
it's at
stuff.
night
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take the Steelers in that one. They're gonna prove some people wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't followed the Bears particularly closely this season, and I haven't been following the Steelers until late, so I haven't been seeing the best of them.
They've been playing better
yeah,
ever
the-
since
I don't know.
Juju stopped dancing on the logos.
Yes, yeah. I think okay. I'll say if Juju doesn't dance on the logo, they win.
I don't think he will. So that's a dub for the
No.
Steelers then.
Yeah.
I guess the last NFL note is Trevor Lawrence declaring for the NFL draft next year, but that was expected. We kind of had a bit of a debate on the show, I think a couple weeks ago about that. Like, the Jets are so bad, but the Jets are so bad that they can't even get the first overall pick. They ended up pulling a second. They suck at sucking, and I didn't think that was possible, but they fell out of that number one spot, and the Jaguars are probably going to take Trevor Lawrence now. The Jets fired their coach. The Jags fired their coach. So they're going to be rebuilding.
Everyone fired their coach.
Everybody fired their coach. It was firing Monday in the NFL. So, Jaguars will get Lawrence.
Number one said, Jets don't have number one.
Declaring.
Okay.
Yeah. But the Jaguars aren't going to be that much better.
True.
Yeah.
No, but they at least have a future
Yeah.
as opposed to whatever New York is.
Less
but
media coverage, too, in Jacksonville.
That's true.
Hmm.
Very true.
Yeah.
Shall we move on
Yeah, let's move on.
to the basketball? Because there has been quite a bit of news. First of all, we should start off with my hot take from a few weeks ago, that Rudy Gobert should be the Toronto Raptors target, and immediately he signs a 5-year, $205 million extension with Utah. So that hot take went out the window. We'll add that to the list of failed hot takes. By the way, Thomas, we didn't tell you this. We do a segment at the end of our show called Hot Takes, where we give a hot take on something in the world of sports. So we're actually giving you a heads up this time, as opposed to springing it on our guests as we're doing them. But yeah, Rudy Gobert signed his extension. Kyle Kuzma signed a 2-year, $40 million extension with the Los Angeles Lakers. Markelle Fultz signed a 3-year, $50 million extension with the Orlando Magic. And the Orlando were busy again, signing Jonathan Isaac to a 4-year, $80 million deal. And then the only other major signing was OG Anunoby. Signed a 4-year, $72 million extension with the Toronto Raptors. He has a player option in year 4. Do you like the OG extension, and do you like the dollar figure?
Yeah, I think I don't mind it. You need to sign a guy like OG, and he hasn't been good to start this year. And like, people might quickly say like, yeah, this contract was a bad idea. You know, why'd they sign him for this long and this much money is not worth it? But he's still a very young guy, and we saw what he could do in the past. He's got a lot of talent in him. So I think 4 years is a good timetable for him. 72 million maybe is a bit of an overpayment, but it's hard to tell right now. I think he can really step up his game and make this contract look like it was just robbery from the Raptors. I think if he turns it on, I don't know if it's going to be this year, but give him more playing time, and I think this contract will be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, OJ Anunoby is 23, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyone who's an NBA starter at age 23, and it's one of the headlines of the team is going to be something special. And OG Anunoby, I think he might be overshadowed a little bit because the Raptors have so many strong players a recent championship winning team that he's a part of. So I just think OG Anunoby is stepping into a bit of a different role. So there might be a bit of an adjustment phase there. But, every NBA team needs to have a guy, right? And he is really the best prospect for the Raptors in terms of being that guy. And, I think that's why they signed him for that long a deal. They want to have him around. He's a franchise player.
Yeah, I think he could be one of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA, period. His defense is so good, and he's been improving his shot, and he's been improving his offense. So I think this is really good value for Toronto and for Anunoby as well, because he's able to opt out in year 4 and make a ton more money by signing a new deal. But yeah, I love this deal for both Toronto and both Toronto and the Raptors, both Toronto and OG.
Yeah.
I think it'll work out really well. Hopefully better than the start of the season for the Raptors, which we'll touch on in a second, because first we have to mention the Milwaukee Bucks and what happened to them, because the NBA determined that the Bucks violated league rules with the timing of Bogdan Bogdanovic's transaction and will lose their second-round pick in 2022. This is all from Shams Charania, and he followed it up with the NBA investigated an apparent agreement between the Bucks and Bogdanovich in free agency, finding that early discussions did occur and constituting conduct detrimental to the league, sources said. So basically what I assume is they negotiated too early, and that was that, and then Bogdanovich ended up in Atlanta after the trade fell through. But Bucks lost their 2022 second-round pick for violating a rule, which, great. Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. Yeah, next other NBA news, Becky Hammon became the first woman to coach an NBA game as head coach after Greg Popovich was ejected against the Lakers. She's the San Antonio Spurs assistant coach. She lost, obviously, because they were down by 20 when she took over. But it's big. It's a big move for the NBA. It's a big move for women in sport to have somebody head coach a game at that level. And it's good to see. But let's rant about the Raptors, because they suck. They are currently sitting at 1-5. They are only one of two teams who only have a single win, the other being fellow former Toronto Raptor head coach Dwayne Casey's Detroit Pistons.
Detroit teams are just great, eh?
Yeah, they're so good, just so good. But they're actually, I'm not going to trip them because I have Jeremy Grant on my fantasy team, and he is going off because nobody on that team can score points. So big win for me in getting him late in the draft. But Toronto are second last in the league because Detroit have played one more game and therefore have one more loss than Toronto. But what do you guys think is wrong with Toronto? And what do you think Masai or Nick Nurse do to try to fix this team?
To be honest, I haven't watched a single Raptors game this year so far. I told myself, I didn't watch the first game, and I heard that they looked really bad in it, and I was just like, okay, I'm not going to waste my time stressing about this team right now. So I haven't watched the game yet, but I've heard that they are just brutal. I don't know what you do.
Sorry about that, folks. It happened again. Basically, what we're going to do is we're not going to mention any signings in hockey. We're basically just going to talk World Juniors. We won't touch on the NHL coming back because that's happening next week. And we'll do a preview of the season and everything like that then. We'll mention a couple things that have happened, just see if you guys have any thoughts on it. But let's wrap up the Raptors discussion with one simple question. Is this the year that the Toronto Raptors rebuild / do a quick rebuild?
Um, during the season or in the off season? I think it's gonna be in the off season.
during the season?
No, I don't think so. Also, just because I think it's gonna be very difficult to make trades at this time with COVID. I don't think you can do a rebuild during the season. Like maybe you could trade one guy at the deadline, but I think this offseason will be massive for the Raptors. Whether they do continue to try and push to win, or they just completely tank and trade everyone. This offseason will be huge, and especially because Giannis isn't there anymore. Like they can rebuild if they want to. I think.
Yeah. I don't think this season is completely lost for the Raptors. They still have talent, but I also don't think they're gonna trade for someone big or tear the team down. I don't think it's a good time to do that for the Toronto Raptors, and they're gonna receive a lot of pressure from people in Toronto because we're now used to having a good NBA team in Toronto.
Yeah.
But I think it's best for the team if they don't.
Interesting. Very interesting. So you don't think that the Toronto Raptors should try to acquire a certain man in Houston?
No.
That would be the worst thing to do. The worst. Because
Yeah.
you have to give up so much for that, it's not worth it.
Well, it would most likely be you give up Pascal Siakam
It's not worth it.
and
Yeah.
some first round picks.
No.
Nah.
All right. Well, let's talk hockey
Yeah.
and quickly do this so we can get this over with.
Before the stream
Um,
crashes again.
But yeah, before the stream crashes again for the fourth time, Alex Steen is retiring with an asterisk due to a back injury. He's just being put on LTIR. It's to the point where he can't play, and in response, the St. Louis Blues signed Mike Hoffman to a PTO to then sign him the second that Alex Steen is able to go on LTIR to likely a 1-year deal in the $4-ish, $5-ish million range. Yeah, that's fun. That's all the signings we're going to talk about. Derek Stepan got traded to the Sens for a second rounder, Columbus's pick. Yeah, that's an interesting pickup. Absolutely no thoughts on that. Matt Barzal still isn't signed. He's attending training camp and has done his physical, but he still does not have a contract, although he will 100% sign a new deal. It's just how long and for how much it will be. But the Islanders are in a tricky situation right now because they have no money left because they've signed Leo Komarov and Matt Martin to massive contracts that they probably shouldn't have. And I should probably include Andrew Ladd on that list because, woof, that contract. But yeah, they have some maneuvering to do. Other news: Henrik Lundqvist will unfortunately not be able to play this season due to a heart issue. He is going to require open heart surgery, which is very major surgery. I think this likely spells the end of his career, which is very, very unfortunate. It's sad news. I don't know if either of you have anything to add to the Lundqvist news. His replacement will likely be Craig Anderson, who has been signed to a PTO with Washington. But what do you guys think about Henrik Lundqvist's career likely coming to an end in this way?
Well, you mean he's a hockey great. we're losing the king. Yeah, it's going to be a big deal if he decides to officially retire, which, I mean, it's probably what's going to happen yet. I don't know how many players have come back from open heart surgery. But yeah, he'll be up there with one of the hockey greats for sure. and legend in New York.
Yeah, I think, it's like he played his last game with the Rangers at least, so it might be I guess that might be the only silver lining. Like, you could say he played his whole career with one team. But it's devastating news. Like, it was so unexpected too. We thought he was going to be fine. He saw him practicing in the Capitals uniform and thought he was all good. And it's tough news, Hopefully everything goes according to plan and he's all right and he's going to have a good recovery. And then we heard about Jonathan Toews as well. Something's going on with him. So we hope he's okay as well, and he can get back to the Blackhawks as soon as possible.
Yeah, so the exact surgery that Lundqvist is having is open heart surgery. It is aortic valve replacement, aortic root, and ascending aortic replacement. So that is a very serious surgery. And I think it's safe to say his NHL career is over, just because goalies use their chest a lot. And part of having open heart surgery is cutting a line down the middle of your chest. So I think it's unfortunately done for the King, which sucks to see, but
he'll be back in the NHL in
crazy
some way.
career.
Like, he'll be a member of management or a coach or something. Like, he's not done. I could see him getting a job with the Rangers.
Yeah, he'll be like Roberto Luongo with he's working with as a goaltending coach, I think,
Exactly.
in Florida.
Yeah.
is he? Oh, okay. I thought he was a part of the broadcast in Florida. Interesting.
Yeah, that was the Devin Levi story, right? 'Cause Devin Levi was drafted by the Panthers, and
Spencer Knight.
that's how he knows Roberto Luongo. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good transition to the World Juniors.
Yes, finally.
Which, finally, we won't touch on the helmet stuff or the divisional name ads because that's stupid. If they can make money because you're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
World Juniors wrapped up yesterday night in less than ideal circumstances, shall we say. But this tournament was more than less than ideal for Sweden after they lost their regular season winning record after winning like so many games in a row, or not losing so many games in a row in the little regular group stage play. They lost to Russia. So heartbreaking for the Swedes, who didn't have a very good tournament, which I think COVID had a huge part to play in that. But we're not going to talk about them because we're Canadians. So we're going to talk about the Canadians. Canada lost the gold medal game to the U.S. last night. They beat Russia Canada beat Russia in the conference finals, and the U.S. beat Finland. All I can really say is the U.S. played an unbelievable game.
Yeah.
It's like they were so good.
I want to hear what Thomas has to say on this.
Yeah, I don't know. I would start off by saying that I'm surprised that the Americans played in the gold medal game, because the game they played against Finland was like, as we've seen Finland do the whole entire tournament, was very heavily dominated by Finland in the third period. And the only reason that the Americans won that game was because of a bad turnover with a minute to go in the Finn zone, and Arthur Kalliev just kind of flicks a rolling puck up into the top corner. Okay, right? Like, Pyrenin's caught a little bit out of position. There's a rolling puck, and, well, I mean, nice job by Kalliev to pick up on that. It's not easy to shoot a rolling puck and so precisely. But the Finns had all of the momentum going to that game, right? They were going into the third period, right? They score the 2 goals, they tie it up, and I think I would have won like $62 as well if
nice.
the Finns won that game, because I think I bet on them at like 11-1 odds and a whole bunch of different things. But that was such a fluke. It was such a fluke that that happened to the Americans, and, well, they deserved it, because, I mean, they're a much better team than the Finns, but Man, they just roll with that top line with Kaliev and Turcotte and Zegras, and that's their key to success. That's that's what won them a game against Canada, and that's what won them against the Finns, which I don't even think that should have been so difficult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a heartbreaking loss for Finland.
Yeah.
But they made up for it by winning the bronze. So
Against a Russian team that didn't.
Oh my
care
gosh, what
about
happened?
hockey. That was that was horrible. I couldn't believe it. I can't believe you're playing for a medal in the Russian game, and the Russians score the first goal. I'm not sure who it was. Was it Podkolzin? Maybe. The Russians score the first goal, and they don't even celebrate. They don't even celebrate the goal like they're expecting to be there. And as soon as I see that, I'm like, yeah, the Finns, they love to pull off upsets, and they're going to look at that and they're going to say, oh, like we're playing a team that doesn't even care. Like, if we have the typical hockey phrase where they want it more. If they want it more, they're going to take it. And as soon as the Russians scored that first goal, another fluky goal, by the way, bad rebound by Pyronin. That's kind of a theme of this tournament. But as soon as the Russians scored that goal, the Finland was like, okay, we're going to get on our horse and go, because these guys, they expect to be here. They're not respecting Finland as a team at all.
Yeah. I think that obviously that 5-0 loss to Team Canada doesn't really help your confidence going into this game, but at the same time, it's still a bronze medal that's up for grabs. And I heard that they were getting a lot of backlash back home too. Yeah. So you would think that they would try harder to win this game, but maybe they just didn't care. But I mean, some of the Russians were still very upset after the loss. Like you could see them on the ice crying and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what happened with this year's Russia team. I was saying it to one of my other friends. I just think they didn't have that swagger and that intimidation. Like normally in years past, like they would be chirping on the ice, they would be taunting the other teams, they would be celebrating big. We just didn't see that. Yeah. And in years past, and we know it very well as Canada fans, if they're losing in a game, they come back. They don't just take a 3-0 lead and give up. They come back. And in that Canada game, when we were up 3-0 in the first period, I thought for sure that we were gonna win. There was no hesitation that I had that we were gonna lose this game. It felt so different. And I don't know what it was, but something about this Russian team.
Yeah, there's some big changes happening right now in Russian hockey. You have, it's the first time in so long that Valery Bragin hasn't been the coach of the Russians behind the bench. And they've taken in Igor Larionov. They have the youngest Russian team they've ever played with ever. The first time that they don't care how old the players are anymore in Russia. They care about, how much skill they have. And people come in looking at Larionov, and he's coming in and he's not coaching with the typical Russian style, right? Like Bragin is, he's standing up on the boards and he's yelling at his team. Igor Larionov he's almost Canadian. He's friendly with his team. He's encouraging them. He's patting them on the back, right? And I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with the way the Russians play hockey all the time, but Valery Bragin was definitely helping them, and he was kicking them in the butt, and that was, I think, part of the intimidation factor of the Russians. One thing that was different this year is that Valery Bragin liked to play more of a North American style of hockey, where he would play not necessarily play dump and chase. We're not going to go that far, but he didn't care for the Russian weave, right, where they make these complex passing plays to try and get the puck into the zone. And Igor Larionov is kind of a traditional Russian player, and he really wants to bring back the Russian weave and be making up complex plays for the Russians to try and get the puck into the zone rather than just dumping it in, and finding ways to have sustained possession regardless of whether it's in the offensive zone or in the neutral zone. Mm-hmm. But I think the problem that Igor Larionov is running into is that the World Juniors isn't a tournament where we look at how good a team is as a team. If you bring a whole bunch of guys with good skill, they're going to have a good power player. They're going to be able to break into the zone. when you don't have, and I know that the Russians played together in that men's league tournament before the whole thing started, but Igor Larionov he has got too much on his plate. If you're trying to draw up plays and have a complex, integrated team, right? The Russian weave worked because the Russians trained in camps since they were, 7 years old. They played together for 10 years in a row. You're asking them to do like these complex plays with all this, and I guess I'm kind of referring back to the Red Army film that we watched in social media, but it doesn't work. And I think that Valery Bragin was kind of more progressive in the sense that he wanted to play the game that gave them the best chance to win, and Larionov is just taking too much of a traditional approach.
That's really interesting. What did you think of Askarov in the tournament?
Yeah. So I mean, I think what the best thing for Askarov is that he screwed up first tournament. He didn't play particularly well this tournament, and I know he was one of the best three players on Russia, but that's picked by the team, right? Like that's he wasn't one of the best three players on Russia.
On
But
paper, maybe.
the best
but
thing
yeah,
for
not nice.
best thing for Askarov is that he gets to play again because he's only 18 and he's going to get to come back, and he's either going to be fantastic or there's going to be a whole bunch of pressure on his shoulders in 2022 because he's already not met expectations twice in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that stick thing, I've never seen it. I've never seen a guy lose his stick so much in his life than he did it against Canada. And Ray Ferraro on the broadcast was just chirping every single time. It was funny to watch. It's good television.
Yeah, that's a fluke. I wouldn't if you see Askarov lose a stick down the line, it's not because he has a habit of losing it. It's just some
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
The entire tournament was weird. Like I only watched a couple games involving Canada and period, just because I couldn't get into it this year.
Yeah.
Might be
Were
the
they the
fans,
same?
the fans aspect. I watched it all, I think. Just because, I mean, there's the only sports that were really on, except for basketball, but I'm not the biggest basketball guy.
Yeah. No, I watched every minute of every game, but that's just because I'm a World Juniors nerd. So I'll watch anything World Juniors. But it was funny. This tournament was the most equal, I think, in terms of skill level. Like the Canadians, I guess, dominated, but I mean, like the Czechs beat the Russians, and it wasn't like an underdog win. Like the Czechs beat the Russians.
That's true.
And man, like the USA, they didn't just have trouble with Finland, they had trouble with the Slovaks too.
Yeah.
That was a 1-goal game late in the third period.
Russia had trouble with Germany as well in the quarterfinals.
Russia had trouble with everyone.
Yeah. True. Yep.
Yeah.
Germany, I think if they hadn't had COVID cases, Germany would have been a massive threat. But the issue is, like, their entire team got COVID.
Yeah.
So they were kind of killed to begin with.
Yeah. And the Slovaks as well. Keep an eye out for them in 2022. They had an okay team this year. Halabai was good in net. Likadze, they had 2 good goalies. But they have 14 players coming back next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And if they were okay this year, right, we're talking about 18-year-olds that are okay, especially in this time in a player's development, that says a lot. So, I mean, I could definitely see the Slovaks competing for, definitely a playoff spot or getting past the round robin, if not a. I mean, it all depends on who they play, right? But we could see them competing for bronze for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. World hockey, international hockey is getting more and more even as by, which is, I think, amazing because it's showing there's more of an interest worldwide as opposed to just in Russia, Canada, the US, and Sweden, Finland, sort of. Like now you're getting the Germanys, you're getting the Slovakias, you're getting the Britons. like Kazakhstan. Um,
Yeah,
like it's crazy.
Kazakhstan, and you know who's dropping? Like teams like Denmark, Estonia is another one. They're coming up through the World Junior ranks. Denmark is gonna have trouble getting back because how many like they were in the World Juniors for a long time. I never remembered a World Junior as a kid that didn't have Denmark in it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing Denmark a lot, and I mean they're not going to be back for another 2-3 years. They don't have anyone coming up as well.
Yeah, hockey's growing. It's growing like crazy, and
Yeah.
it's really good. It's only a matter of time before we start seeing China, Japan, Korea, other countries like that competing in the World Juniors or at the Olympics.
Yeah,
Actually competing, not like going on and getting beat by Canada 22-0, but like it being 5-0 games, and then it being even closer than that.
And if you can take the same amount of shots as the other team, like we saw it in the American versus the U.S. game. The Canadians, dominated the second half of that game. But, I mean, the Americans just kept the Canadians to the outside. That is the strategy for underdog teams.
Yeah.
And teams like, Germany and the Czechs did it the best this tournament. And every other underdog team is going to learn to play like that. And they're going to be able to pull up upsets, which is great. Because if you're a Canadian fan and you see any underdog playing any other team that's Canada, you're cheering for them. Like, that's the only reason you're watching that game.
Exactly. Do either of you have anything you want to add to the World Junior discussion? Did I miss anything? Or do we want to do hot takes?
I think quickly I think it, like the game last night, and it's obviously a heartbreaking loss for Canada. I think it just came down to the U.S. just outworked us, I would say. They were winning all the battles mostly, and I know Canada caught up later on in the game, but at that point it was just too much. And in a gold medal game as well, if it's a tight game, it normally just comes down to a few bounces, a few lucky breaks, and that's what the U.S. got. That second goal was extremely lucky, and Zegras has the nice hands, but I mean that puck should have gone around the net instead of just staying or sticking to the back of the net. And then I mean, that first goal as well, you can't really blame Devin Levi. It was a tip right in front of him. He was in good position. It just a tip last second. And that happens in a gold medal game, and you got to create your own luck in these games. And Canada just didn't do it. So, yeah.
You saw on the Zegras goal, you saw what happened, what it hit in the net.
Did it hit the bottle or the top?
It hit the camera.
Oh, it hit the camera.
And if you remember last year's gold medal game, when Aiden Dudas ripped it off the TSN camera, it would have been a 5-on-3, I think, for the Russians, down a goal.
I didn't even catch that. Wow.
Yeah. So it didn't matter in the end because we didn't score. But there you go. They got it back.
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, let's do hot takes. If you're new to the show and you don't know what hot takes are, basically at the end of the show we give a hot take or a crazy opinion on something, anything in the world of sports. In the past, as I mentioned earlier, I predicted Rudy Gobert would be a good fit for the Toronto Raptors to go after, and then he signed immediately. Or I've said back in June, the MLB would be the first league back, and then they were the last league back. Or more accurately, Aiden predicted 2 weeks before Mike Babcock was fired, he'd be fired in the next 2 weeks, and he was fired in the next 2 weeks. So some of our opinions are right, and all of mine are wrong. But what are your hot takes? Do you have any prepared?
I did not have one prepared. Oh, Thomas has one prepared. Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, mine. You're gonna have to wait a year for mine because mine's World Junior related.
Nice.
But my hot take is that the Slovaks win the bronze medal last year.
That's good, yeah.
Nice.
Damn.
I like that.
I was going to say...
That's a good hot take.
Yeah. I was going to say something crazy like Russia gets relegated next year. at the World
I
Juniors.
don't remember.
Okay. Yeah, that's,
But
okay, sure. I'll actually, I won't entertain that because they're gonna have all 19-year-olds next year, and they're gonna have their entire team returning.
yeah,
But this year, like they after they beat the Americans, which is like great. But if they had lost to the Americans, and okay, there was no relegation this year, so they couldn't have got relegated. But I mean, there was a path for them to finish below Austria.
yeah,
It would have had to mean Austria won a game. But I mean, they lost to the Czechs, right? They could have lost to the Swedes in that game easily. They scored with 5.4 seconds left in overtime,
Uh-huh.
right? That could have gone to a shootout. It's a
Yeah.
toss-up. And the American game, Spencer Knight blew the game. Like Spencer
Yeah.
Knight gave them 2 goals because he couldn't handle the puck. So I mean, if the Austrians had managed to find an upset, maybe like in the Czechs, that could have pushed the Russians into the relegation round.
it can
Well,
happen.
it's-
Yeah, you never know.
Like they were that bad this year.
No, that's not my hot take though. I gotta say it. Leafs will win the cup next year. Toronto Maple Leafs will win the cup next
I
year.
think this is a hot take every week, and you should have saved it to next week when we're doing an actual hockey preview. But fair. I'll give you that.
It couldn't wait. It couldn't wait, Connor. I had to
Another
say it.
team.
Yeah, pick another team. Pick the Habs or something.
Double your odds, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. No. Leafs all the way. Leafs are gonna win. And maybe my hot take next week will be who wins the Conn Smythe. How about that?
Sure. My hot take is I don't know if it's that hot a take, but I think it's a hot take. Kyle Lowry is not a Toronto Raptor at the end of this season.
Sure.
I think that's a hot take. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it happen, but if you're going to trade somebody and you want to give them another shot at an NBA championship,
Yeah. And if you're going to trade someone at any point in their career, he's 34 years old, right? There's not a lot left in Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry's been a pro for 15 years.
it's nuts. We were 5 years old when he entered the NBA.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like,
Jeez, he's old.
I think Zdeno Chara, I think there's an NHL player, Joe Thornton, I think, has been in the NHL longer than we've been alive.
Yeah, Joe Thornton debuted in 1997.
Yeah.
3 years before we've been alive. I assume you guys are 20. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
the same with Marlowe.
We're both 20.
Marlowe's around the same.
Probably the same.
No, I think Marlowe
Probably
was
the same with Chara?
2002.
Oh, okay.
Marlowe was 2002. Wow. What about Chara?
Yeah, maybe Chara because I'm not sure, but Thornton's the longest,
Yeah.
definitely.
Either way, there's an NHL player who's been in the NHL longer than we've been alive, and we're a year away from graduating university, which feels nuts to say. But with that, we want to thank you, Thomas, for coming on. Taking how long has this been? We
Too
started almost 3.5 hours of your time to put this podcast together, following two or three computer crashes, my OBS not working, and numerous technical issues in between. Thank you for coming on. We will link all of his stuff down below in the description. Just thank you.
Yeah,
we really,
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
No,
This has
I
been a ton of
appreciate coming on. Yeah, anytime you need me to come talk sports, let me know.
For sure.
Yeah, it was good. It's good chatting it up with you guys, and I appreciate all the research you were able to find on me as well. It's
It's all Connor.
Thank
pretty
you.
cool. It's pretty cool if someone takes the time to see what you're doing, and you give me a platform to say some of the stuff I can unselfishly. So no, I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, we love hearing people talk about themselves because some people are very good at it and they love to do it, and some people have a bit of a difficult time, and it's fun trying to push them to get them to try to talk about themselves and everything they've done to acknowledge what they've done. But yeah, doing the research for me is a ton of fun because I just get to learn about everybody in this program and what they've done and how far behind I am in terms of doing projects. But yeah, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point in the future. We'll run out of people at some point. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And we'll have to start repeating. But thank you for coming on. We'll be back next week. Probably. No, we will be. We'll be back next week for another episode. It'll be probably on Wednesday again, I'd assume, because that night, NHL drops the puck. So next week, look out for a preview for next season. And we'll be back. Thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, follow us on social medias. Follow me on social medias. Follow Aiden on social medias. Follow Thomas on social medias. I probably pointed in the complete wrong directions there.
All in
But
the
who cares?
description.
Everything's in the description. So, yeah. We'll be back next week. Peace.